Hi everyone. Great to have you here at Black Magic. Get comfortable because today we're presenting What If the Sorting Hat scanned Harry age 7 and declared Dumbledore unfit to control Hogwarts Heir. Before we start, a gentle reminder, if you love stories like this, please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm show our videos to more people. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Chapter 1, The Hat's Declaration. Harry Potter huddled in the dark of his cupboard, knees pulled tight against his chest. Outside, Uncle Vernon's footsteps thundered across the hallway floorboards. Each heavy step sent dust raining from the ceiling onto Harry's unruly black hair. "Boy! What did you do to Dudley's new computer?" Harry squeezed his eyes shut. He hadn't done anything to the stupid computer. Dudley had thrown it against the wall when he couldn't beat the first level of his new game. But Harry knew better than to say that. "I'm talking to you." The cupboard door flew open. Vernon's purple face filled the space, mustache twitching with fury. "I didn't touch it, Uncle Vernon," Harry said, trying to make himself smaller. "Liar." Vernon reached in, grabbing Harry's arm and yanking him out. "First the school calls about you appearing on the roof, then Dudley's computer explodes, and you expect me to believe it's all coincidence." Harry's heart hammered against his ribs. "But I was in here all morning." "Enough of your freakishness." Vernon shook him hard. "No meals for a week." Something hot and electric surged under Harry's skin. His vision blurred, and a high-pitched ringing filled his ears. "Stop," Harry whispered. Vernon raised his hand. "I'll teach you to stop." Harry screamed. A shockwave of energy exploded outward. The windows throughout the house shattered simultaneously. Light bulbs popped in showers of glass and sparks. The television screen cracked down the middle. Every door in the house flung open, hinges straining. Vernon flew backward, sliding across the hallway floor until he hit the wall with a thud. He stared at Harry, eyes bulging with shock and fear. Harry stood, trembling, at the center of the destruction. The air around him crackled and shimmered like heat waves off summer pavement. He looked down at his hands, which glowed with a faint blue light. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. Amelia Bones was halfway through her morning tea when the magical detection instruments in her office began wailing. As head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, she'd seen these alarms before, but never all of them at once. She burst from her office. "Somebody explain." A junior officer rushed forward, wand directing a parchment that scribbled frantically. "Massive magical discharge in Little Whinging, Surrey. It's off the charts." "Death Eater activity?" she asked sharply. "No ma'am. It's coming from a child. The signature matches records for Harry Potter." Amelia froze. "Harry Potter? Are you certain?" "Yes ma'am. The discharge is still ongoing. The Muggle detection systems are going crazy. Alert Obliviator headquarters. I want a team ready in 2 minutes. And get me Kingsley and Dawlish." Amelia grabbed her wand. "I'll head there myself." 5 minutes later, Amelia and 2 senior Aurors apparat to Privet Drive, landing behind a tall hedge. The air felt wrong, thick and humming with magic. "Merlin's beard," whispered Kingsley Shacklebolt. "Feel that?" A blue glow emanated from number 4. Every window was shattered, and lawn furniture had been flung across neighboring yards. Muggles stood in their driveways, pointing and shouting in confusion. "Obliviators have their work cut out for them," Dawlish muttered. "Focus on the boy," Amelia ordered, striding toward the house. "Kingsley, shield charms. Dawlish, be ready with containment." They entered to find the house in chaos. Picture frames hung crooked, furniture overturned. In the hallway, a large man pressed himself against the wall, face pale with terror. A thin woman clutched a rotund boy behind the partial shelter of the staircase. And in the center of it all stood a small, skinny boy with messy black hair and broken glasses. The famous lightning scar stood out vividly on his forehead. A swirling vortex of blue energy surrounded him, lifting small objects into the air. Harry Potter? Amelia asked calmly, stepping forward. The boy looked up, green eyes wide with fear. I can't make it stop, he said, his voice small. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's all right, Amelia said, kneeling to his level despite the crackling energy. My name is Amelia Bones. I'm here to help you. You're one of them, shouted Vernon, finding his voice. One of his kind. Take him and go, he's a menace. Amelia ignored him, focusing on Harry. Harry, I need you to breathe with me. Slowly. In, and out. It hurts, Harry whispered. Like something's trying to get out. Amelia glanced at Kingsley, who nodded grimly. They both recognized the signs of dangerously suppressed magic. Harry, how long have strange things been happening around you? She asked. Always, he said. But I get punished for it. Amelia's expression hardened. She stood and turned to Vernon. You. What have you done to this child? Done to him? He's done nothing but cause trouble since he was dumped on our doorstep. We never wanted him. Dawlish, Amelia said quietly. Take statements from the Muggles. Kingsley, contact St. Mungo's Pediatric Magical Surge Unit. She turned back to Harry. I'm going to help you, Harry, but we need to go somewhere safe. Somewhere your magic can be properly handled. Am I in trouble? Harry asked. No, child. But I think others might be. She extended her hand, careful not to touch the magical field surrounding him. Will you come with me? Harry looked at the Dursleys, then back at Amelia's kind face. He nodded. Good boy. Now, we're going to go to a special place. It might feel strange, but I promise you'll be safe. The freak school? Harry asked. Uncle Vernon said that's where my parents went. Amelia's jaw tightened. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And yes, your parents were brilliant students there. Witchcraft. Harry's eyes widened. Harry, Amelia said gently, you're a wizard. A potentially very powerful one. The blue energy around Harry pulsed. A wizard? But Uncle Vernon says magic isn't real. And yet here you are, surrounded by it. She smiled. We need to get you to Hogwarts immediately. Your magic is trying to protect you, but it's growing unstable. Harry took a tentative step forward. Will it hurt? We'll do everything to make sure it doesn't. As Harry approached, the energy field expanded, crackling against nearby objects. Amelia cast a containment charm, creating a bubble around them both. I need to touch you to take you there. Is that all right? Harry nodded, reaching for her hand. When their fingers connected, a shock of energy passed between them, making Amelia gasp. Kingsley, alert Hogwarts were coming directly. Emergency protocol. Already done, Kingsley replied. McGonagall is expecting you. Amelia held Harry close. Hold tight, Harry. Deep breath now. With a crack, they disappeared. They materialized on a path leading to enormous iron gates. Beyond them stood a castle that made Harry's mouth fall open. Towers and turrets reached toward the clouds, windows glittering in the morning sun. That's a school, he breathed. That's Hogwarts, Amelia said with a smile. Your parents' school, and someday yours. As they approached the gates, they swung open on their own. A tall woman in emerald robes hurried down the path, her face stern but concerned. Amelia. What's happened? Then she caught sight of Harry, and her expression softened. Merlin's beard. Harry Potter. Minerva, Amelia nodded. We have a situation. Extreme magical surge, possible abuse case. I need Poppy Pomfrey and a secure location. And she hesitated. We need the sorting hat. Professor McGonagall's eyebrows rose. The hat? But he's far too young for sorting. This isn't about sorting, Minerva. His magic is uncontrolled but profoundly strong. The hat might help us understand what we're dealing with. McGonagall nodded sharply. Follow me. The headmaster is away, but I'll alert him immediately. They hurried through the grounds. Harry stumbled along, gaping at the enormity of the castle. The blue glow around him pulsed and flared with each new sight. Easy, Harry, Amelia murmured. Try to stay calm. Inside the entrance hall, Harry stopped in his tracks. Moving portraits covered the walls, their occupants pointing and whispering. Staircases shifted position overhead. Suits of armor turned their helmets to watch him pass. It's... Harry couldn't find words. But something else was happening. The blue energy around Harry began to change, streaks of gold weaving through it. The castle itself seemed to respond, torches flared brighter, suits of armor snapped to attention, and a soft, deep hum resonated through the stone walls. McGonagall exchanged a worried glance with Amelia. I've never seen the castle react this way. They rushed Harry to the hospital wing, where a matronly witch gasped at the sight of him. Oh, the poor dear. On the bed, quickly. I'm Madame Pomfrey, she told Harry as she waved her wand over him. I'm going to help you feel better. Diagnostic spells created glowing symbols above Harry's body. Pomfrey's expression grew increasingly grave. Malnourished, evidence of improperly healed fractures, and his magical core. She shook her head in disbelief. It's enormous, but bound. Like someone tried to suppress it. Bound? McGonagall asked sharply. Who would? The doors to the hospital wing burst open. A tiny wizard hurried in, carrying what looked to Harry like an old, patched leather hat. Professor Flitwick, McGonagall greeted him. Thank you for bringing the hat. It was most insistent, Minerva, Flitwick squeaked. Started shouting the moment I entered the headmaster's office. The hat twitched in his hands. I felt the heir's arrival, it announced in a gravelly voice. Bring me to him. Everyone stared at the hat. The heir. McGonagall repeated. The hat has never done this before, Flitwick whispered. Amelia stepped forward. We need answers. Harry's magic is dangerously unstable. McGonagall nodded. Very well. She took the hat from Flitwick and approached Harry's bed. Harry, this is the sorting hat. It's very old and very wise. It might be able to help understand what's happening to your magic. Harry eyed the ancient hat dubiously. It talks. I do more than talk, young heir, the hat replied. I see into minds, hearts, and magic itself. I was created by the founders of this school to guide and to guard. Will it hurt? Harry asked for the second time that day. Not at all, McGonagall assured him. The hat will simply sit on your head for a moment. Harry nodded nervously. McGonagall placed the hat gently on his head, where it immediately fell down over his eyes. Said a voice in Harry's mind. Yes, I see now. Extraordinary. The blood of Gryffindor flows strong in you, but there's more, much more. Harry gripped the bedsheets. What's happening to me, he thought. Your magic was bound, young heir, when you were but an infant. An attempt to protect you, perhaps, but done poorly. Now it breaks free, seeking its rightful place. Can you help me control it? I can do better than that. The hat shifted on his head. I can declare the truth that has been hidden. The hat's voice suddenly boomed aloud for all to hear. Hear me, inhabitants of Hogwarts. Before you stands the true heir of this castle, Harry James Potter, descendant of Godric Gryffindor by blood and magic. The entire hospital wing trembled. Portraits on the walls gasped and hurried out of their frames, presumably to spread the news. But the hat wasn't finished. Furthermore, I declare Albus Dumbledore unfit to guide this heir. He who bound the child's magic, he who left him with those who would harm him, he who concealed the child's birthright. McGonagall staggered backwards. Merlin preserve us, she whispered. The hat continued, by the power vested in me by the four founders, I recognize Harry Potter as Hogwarts' true heir and invoke the castle's protection until a worthy guardian is found. The blue and gold energy around Harry suddenly expanded outward in a brilliant flash, then sank into the floor, walls, and ceiling of the hospital wing. Throughout the castle, a deep rumbling began. Suits of armor throughout Hogwarts snapped to attention. The house elves in the kitchen froze, then burst into excited chatter. In the great hall, the enchanted ceiling swirled with magical energy. Hogwarts itself was awakening. Harry sat up, blinking. The painful pressure inside him had vanished. He felt light, almost buoyant. The hat still sat on his head, but now it spoke only to him. The castle recognizes you, young heir. It will protect you now. I don't understand, Harry thought. What does being an heir mean? It means Hogwarts is your birthright. Your ancestor helped build these walls. Your magic is tied to them. In time, you will understand. The hat shifted slightly. For now, know that you are safe here. The castle will not allow harm to come to you within these walls. McGonagall carefully lifted the hat from Harry's head. Harry, she said, her voice unsteady, how do you feel? Harry considered this. Better. Like something tight around me broke. Amelia stepped forward. The hat's declaration has serious legal implications. If Hogwarts itself recognizes Harry as an heir, the Ministry cannot interfere with his residence here. But Albus, McGonagall began. We'll have much to answer for, Amelia finished grimly. If what the hat says is true about binding Harry's magic. I assure you, the hat spoke up from McGonagall's hands, everything I have declared is truth, drawn from the boy's own magic and blood. Flitwick cleared his throat. The last recognized heir of a founder was nearly 3 centuries ago. The legal precedent is clear, Hogwarts becomes sanctuary for the heir, and the Board of Governors cannot overrule it. Harry looked between the adults. Does this mean I don't have to go back to the Dursleys? The raw hope in his voice made McGonagall's expression soften. No, Harry. You won't be returning there. Harry's face broke into the first genuine smile any of them had seen. Then I don't care about the rest. I'll do whatever you need me to. Madame Pomfrey pushed through the group. What this young man needs is rest and healing. Everyone out. You can sort through the political implications later. I'll need to alert the minister, Amelia said. And arrange for a full investigation of the Dursleys. And I must prepare for Albus's return, McGonagall said grimly. This will not be a pleasant conversation. I'll stay with Harry, Amelia decided. As head of magical law enforcement, I can act as temporary magical guardian until the situation stabilizes. McGonagall nodded. I'll have the house elves prepare quarters for you both. Near my own, I think. As the adults made arrangements, Harry lay back on the hospital bed. For the first time in his life, he felt safe. The constant background fear that had been his companion was gone, replaced by a strange new feeling, a connection to the very stones around him, as if the castle itself were a living thing that recognized him. Rest now, Mr. Potter, Madame Pomfrey said kindly, handing him a potion. This will help your body recover. Harry drank it without question. As his eyes grew heavy, he heard Pomfrey continuing her conversation with Amelia. His condition is worse than I initially thought. Years of malnutrition, evidence of neglect, and his magical core shows signs of multiple bindings. Someone worked very hard to suppress his natural abilities. Dumbledore has many questions to answer, Amelia replied, her voice hard. Starting with why the boy who lived was left with abusive muggles when dozens of magical families would have raised him as their own. Harry drifted off to sleep with these questions swirling in his mind, but for once, he wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring. Harry woke to sunlight streaming through tall windows. For a moment, he panicked, he'd overslept and Vernon would be furious. Then the memories of yesterday rushed back. The magical explosion. The blue energy. The castle. The hat. He sat up, finding himself in a large four-poster bed with deep red curtains. This wasn't the hospital wing anymore. "Good morning, Mr. Potter," came McGonagall's voice. She sat in a chair near his bed, reading from a thick book. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Harry said, surprised to find it was true. He felt rested for perhaps the first time in his life. "Where am I?" "These are the heir's quarters," McGonagall explained, setting aside her book. "They appeared last night after the hat's declaration. The castle created them specifically for you." Harry looked around in wonder. The room was spacious and warm, with a fireplace, bookshelves, and tall windows overlooking the lake. "Created them? How?" "Hogwarts has many secrets, Mr. Potter. As its heir, you'll discover them in time." She stood. "Are you hungry? Breakfast is ready whenever you are." On cue, Harry's stomach growled loudly. McGonagall's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "I'll take that as a yes. The bathroom is through that door. Fresh clothes are laid out for you." 15 minutes later, clean and dressed in clothes that actually fit him, Harry followed McGonagall through a door into a comfortable sitting room where a table was set for breakfast. Amelia Bones sat waiting for them. "Good morning, Harry," she greeted him. "You look much improved." Harry sat down, eyes widening at the array of food. He hesitated, waiting for permission to eat. "Go on," McGonagall encouraged. "It's all for you." Harry cautiously filled his plate with eggs, sausages, and toast. After taking a few bites, he looked up at the adults. "What happens now?" "The hat said something about a guardian." Amelia set down her teacup. "Yes. While you are recognized as Hogwarts heir, you're still a child who needs proper care. I've been acting as your temporary guardian since yesterday, but we need to establish a permanent solution." "Will I stay here? At Hogwarts?" Harry asked. "For now, yes," McGonagall said. "The castle's magic has acknowledged you. It would be unwise to remove you against your will." Harry relaxed slightly. "And what about?" He hesitated. "What about what the hat said about Professor Dumbledore?" The adults exchanged glances. "The headmaster returned late last night," McGonagall said carefully. "He was surprised by the developments." "That's putting it mildly," Amelia muttered. "Will I have to see him?" Harry asked, a note of worry in his voice. "Not until you're ready," Amelia assured him. "For now, we're focusing on your health and establishing your legal status." "There's something else you should know, Harry," McGonagall added. "News of your status as Hogwarts heir has spread beyond the castle. The Daily Prophet, our newspaper, published the story this morning." She handed Harry a newspaper. On the front page was a moving photograph of Hogwarts Castle with the headline, "Boy who lived declared heir of Hogwarts Sorting Hat denounces Dumbledore, Ministry in uproar, people know about me?" Harry asked, dismayed. "I'm afraid so," Amelia said. "You've always been somewhat famous in our world, Harry. You're the only person ever to survive the killing curse, the spell that took your parents." "My parents were murdered," Harry said flatly. "Not killed in a car crash." McGonagall's face darkened. "Those wretched muggles." "No, Harry. Your parents were brave people who died protecting you from a very dark wizard." "Voldemort," Harry said. Both women flinched slightly. "Yes," Amelia confirmed. "How did you know the name?" Harry frowned. "I'm not sure. I just knew it. Like I know other things since yesterday." He looked around. Like I know this room hasn't been used in 297 years. The last person to sleep here was Elizabeth Potter. McGonagall and Amelia exchanged startled looks. Harry, Amelia said carefully, are you saying the castle is sharing information with you? Harry nodded, then closed his eyes. There are 142 students in the castle right now, staying for Easter holidays. The giant squid in the lake is sleeping. Something's wrong with the third-floor corridor, it feels wrong, dark. Remarkable, McGonagall whispered. The legend said the heirs could commune with Hogwarts itself, but I never thought. A knock on the door interrupted them. McGonagall rose to answer it. A moment later, she returned with a short, fierce-looking goblin in a sharp suit. Mr. Potter, the goblin said with a slight bow. I am Gornick, senior account manager at Gringotts Bank. When news reached us of the Hat's declaration, we performed an immediate lineage verification. He placed a folder on the table. Our tests confirm your direct descent from Godric Gryffindor through your father's line. Harry stared at the goblin. What does that mean exactly? It means, Mr. Potter, that in addition to being heir to the Potter fortune, you are also heir to the Gryffindor vault and properties. Moreover, as Hogwarts recognized heir, you have certain legal rights that supersede even the Ministry's authority within these grounds. I'm rich? Harry asked, bewildered. The goblin's lips curled in what might have been a smile. Exceedingly. There's something else, Amelia interjected. In reviewing Harry's parents' will, which was sealed after their deaths, we discovered disturbing information. Harry was never meant to go to the Dursleys. There was a list of approved guardians, starting with his godfather, Sirius Black. The mass murderer? McGonagall asked sharply. That's just it, Amelia said. The will contained a magical attestation that Sirius was not the Potter's secret keeper. Peter Pettigrew was. Sirius Black never received a trial, he was sent straight to Azkaban. You mean Harry's godfather has been wrongfully imprisoned for 6 years? McGonagall looked horrified. I have a godfather? Harry asked, his voice small. Amelia nodded. Yes, Harry. And if this information is correct, he was wrongfully convicted. I've already ordered a full investigation and emergency Wisengamot hearing. The goblin cleared his throat. If I may, there's another matter. Our records show regular withdrawals from the Potter Trust Vault authorized by Albus Dumbledore, supposedly for Mr. Potter's care. Given what we now know about his living conditions. Theft, Amelia said flatly. Added to the growing list of charges. Harry's head spun with all this information. A godfather. Family vaults. Money stolen from him. It was too much. As if sensing his distress, the stones beneath his feet warmed slightly. Harry felt a gentle wave of comfort wash over him, the castle, he realized, responding to his emotions. I think that's enough for now, McGonagall said firmly, seeing Harry's overwhelmed expression. Mr. Potter needs time to process all this. Of course, the goblin agreed, standing. Mr. Potter, I'll prepare a full accounting of your inheritances. Gringotts stands ready to assist Hogwarts Heir. After the goblin left, Harry pushed his half-eaten breakfast away. Can I see the rest of the castle? McGonagall's expression softened. Of course, Harry. I imagine Hogwarts is eager to show herself to her heir. Walking through Hogwarts with Harry Potter was an extraordinary experience, McGonagall reflected. Doors that had been sealed for centuries swung open at his approach. Staircases adjusted their patterns to create direct paths. Portraits bowed or curtsied as he passed. The castle's responding to you, she observed as a suit of armor snapped to attention. Harry nodded, trailing his fingers along the stone wall. It's like it's happy I'm here. He stopped suddenly, head tilted. Professor, is there a room hidden behind this wall? McGonagall blinked in surprise. Not that I'm aware of, and I've been teaching here for nearly 40 years. Harry pressed his palm against the stone. Hogwarts, show me. To McGonagall's astonishment, the wall shimmered and revealed an ornate door that certainly hadn't been there before. Harry grasped the handle and pushed it open, revealing a circular room filled with books, magical instruments, and 4 large portraits. The Founder's study, Harry said with certainty, though how he knew this, McGonagall couldn't guess. The portraits stirred as they entered, their occupants leaning forward with interest. "The heir returns," said a regal-looking woman in blue robes. "Rowena Ravenclaw, young Potter. Welcome to our sanctum." McGonagall gasped. "Authentic Founder's portraits? Impossible. They've been lost for centuries." "Not lost," corrected a burly man with a magnificent red beard. "Waiting. I am Godric Gryffindor, boy. You carry my blood. And my strategic mind, if I'm not mistaken," added a shrewd-looking man in green. "Salazar Slytherin, heir. You have questions, I see them in your eyes." The 4th portrait showed a kind-faced woman in yellow. "Helga Hufflepuff, dear child. How thin you are. The castle tells us you've been mistreated. That ends now." Harry stared at the portraits in wonder. "You're the people who built Hogwarts." "Founded, built, and enchanted," Gryffindor confirmed. "And you, boy, are my descendant and Hogwarts' recognized heir." "But what does that mean?" Harry asked. "Everyone keeps saying I'm an heir, but no one explains what I'm supposed to do." The Founders exchanged glances. "In simplest terms," Ravenclaw said, "it means Hogwarts recognizes you as family. The castle is semi-sentient, imbued with our combined magics. It has chosen you. But why now? Why not when I'm older?" "Because you were in danger," Hufflepuff said gently. "Your magic called out, and the castle answered. As for what you're supposed to do," Slytherin added, "that depends on what needs doing. Hogwarts was created as a sanctuary for magical children, but also as a bastion against dark forces. When an heir is recognized, it typically means change is needed. The castle believes the current leadership has strayed from our founding principles," Gryffindor explained. "Your arrival is the catalyst for correction." McGonagall finally found her voice. "You're saying Hogwarts itself rejected Albus as headmaster?" "The castle has tolerated much over the centuries," Ravenclaw said. "But attempting to bind an heir's magic, then abandoning him to abuse? Unacceptable." "I need to sit down," McGonagall muttered. Harry approached the portraits curiously. "If I'm Gryffindor's heir, does that mean I have to be in Gryffindor House when I'm old enough to be a student?" The Founders laughed. "The houses are not bloodlines, child," Hufflepuff explained. "They represent qualities we valued. Many of my descendants have been sorted into other houses." "Indeed, you show qualities all 4 of us valued," Slytherin observed. "Courage, certainly, but also cunning, intellect, and loyalty. The important thing," Gryffindor said, "is that you're safe now. The castle will protect you while you grow into your power." Harry nodded slowly, processing this. "Can you teach me?" "About magic, I mean." "That," Ravenclaw said with a smile, "is precisely why we're here." Albus Dumbledore paced his office, beard twitching with agitation. Across from him, Severus Snape sat silently, watching. "This is catastrophic, Severus. Everything carefully planned, all arrangements made, and now." He gestured helplessly. "The boy was meant to arrive ignorant and malleable," Snape said flatly. "Your mistake was leaving him with those particular muggles." Dumbledore stopped pacing. "I had my reasons. The blood protection means nothing if his accidental magic kills them all," Snape interrupted. "Did you check on him? Even once?" "I had Arabella Figg watching, a squib. Against Hogwarts Heir." Snape's laugh was bitter. "You miscalculated, headmaster. Badly." A sharp knock interrupted them. The door opened to reveal Amelia Bones and 2 Aurors. "Albus Dumbledore," Amelia said formally, "the Department of Magical Law Enforcement requires your presence for questioning regarding the placement, financial management, and magical binding of Harry James Potter." Dumbledore drew himself up. "Amelia, surely we can discuss this reasonably. You may come voluntarily, or we can compel your attendance," she continued. "The Wisengamot has called an emergency session following evidence of judicial misconduct in the case of Sirius Black." "Sirius? What does he have to do with this?" "The Potters will named him Harry's guardian and explicitly stated he was not their secret keeper." Amelia's expression was stern. "Will you witnessed, then helped seal after their deaths?" Dumbledore paled slightly. "There were security concerns, save it for the inquiry." She turned to the Aurors. "Escort the headmaster to the ministry." Politely, but firmly. As they led Dumbledore away, Snape remained seated, a calculating look in his eyes. "Not taking me in for questioning, Bones?" Amelia regarded him coolly. "Your time will come, Snape. But at the moment, you're not my priority." After she left, Snape rose and moved to the window, watching Dumbledore being escorted across the grounds. Things were shifting rapidly, power dynamics changing. The question was, where would he stand when the dust settled? 3 days later, Harry sat in his quarters reading a book on magical theory that Ravenclaw's portrait had recommended. The founders had begun teaching him basics, not spells yet, but the underlying principles of magic. His connection to Hogwarts grew stronger daily. He could feel the castle's rhythms, sense its moods, and even, to a limited degree, direct its responses. A knock at his door interrupted his reading. McGonagall entered, looking tired but satisfied. "Harry, there's someone here to see you." Behind her stood a gaunt man with long, dark hair and haunted eyes. Despite his ragged appearance, he carried himself with dignity. When he saw Harry, his face transformed with a mix of joy and heartbreak. "Harry," he whispered. "You look so much like James. But you have Lily's eyes." Harry stood, knowing instinctively who this must be. "You're Sirius Black." "My godfather." The man nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I am. I'm free now. The ministry finally gave me a trial." He took a hesitant step forward. "I'm so sorry, Harry. I never should have gone after Pettigrew that night. I should have stayed with you." Harry studied him carefully. "You were in prison. Because of me." "No," Sirius said firmly, dropping to one knee to meet Harry's eyes. "Because I was rash and stupid. Never because of you." McGonagall discreetly stepped out, leaving them alone. "They said you might want to live with me," Sirius continued, uncertainty in his voice. "Once I'm properly recovered, that is. I understand if you'd rather stay here, but I wanted you to know the option exists. I promised your parents I'd look after you." Harry felt a lump in his throat. "You want me to live with you?" "More than anything," Sirius said fervently. "You're my family, Harry. The only family I have left." Something warm unfurled in Harry's chest, hope, he realized. Hope for a real home. "I'd like that," he said quietly. "But I need to stay connected to Hogwarts too." Sirius nodded. "We'll work it out. There's a house on the edge of Hogsmeade Village, you could see Hogwarts from the upstairs windows. We could live there during school terms, then travel during holidays if you'd like." Travel? Harry had never been anywhere besides Surrey and Hogwarts. "Anywhere you want," Sirius promised. "The world is bigger than you can imagine, and I want to show it to you." For the first time, Harry began to understand just how much his life had changed. 3 days ago, he'd been locked in a cupboard, unwanted and alone. Now he stood in a magical castle that recognized him as its heir, with a godfather who wanted him, knowledge of his parents, and a future full of possibilities. Harry stepped forward and, hesitantly, wrapped his arms around Sirius. The man froze for a second, then embraced him fiercely. "I'll never let anyone hurt you again," Sirius whispered. "I swear it." In that moment, Harry believed him. The next week passed in a whirlwind. The wizarding world remained in uproar over the revelations about Harry Potter, Sirius Black, and Albus Dumbledore. The Daily Prophet published daily updates on the Ministry's investigations, the Wisengamot hearings, and the changes at Hogwarts. Harry, shielded by the castle and his growing circle of protectors, focused on learning. The founders' portraits taught him magical theory. McGonagall, now acting headmistress while Dumbledore was suspended, arranged tutors for basic subjects. Sirius, rapidly recovering under Madame Pomfrey's care, shared stories about Harry's parents. On a bright spring morning, Harry sat with Sirius beside the lake, skipping stones across its surface. "Your dad could make them bounce 12 times, Sirius said. "Drove your mum crazy showing off." Harry grinned, enjoying these glimpses into his parents' lives. When did they start dating? 7th year. James finally grew up enough for Lily to notice him. Sirius smiled at the memory. "She was brilliant, your mum. Frightening when angry, but the kindest person I'd ever met." "Like McGonagall?" Harry suggested. Sirius barked a laugh. "Merlin, don't tell Minnie I compared her to a student." Their laughter was interrupted by the approach of Amelia Bones, accompanied by a stern-looking witch in formal robes. Harry, Sirius, Amelia greeted them. "This is Madame Longbottom, Regent of House Longbottom. She's brought her grandson to meet you." Behind them stood a round-faced boy who looked about Harry's age. He fidgeted nervously under his grandmother's stern gaze. "Mr. Potter," Madame Longbottom inclined her head. "Augusta Longbottom. Your parents and my son and daughter-in-law were friends. This is Neville, their son." Harry smiled at the boy. "Hi, Neville." Hello," Neville stammered. "Neville will be in your year when you start Hogwarts properly," Madame Longbottom explained. "I thought it prudent you meet now, given your respective positions." Sirius stood to speak with the adults, leaving the boys to get acquainted. "So," Harry said, "do you know much about Hogwarts?" Neville nodded. "Gran talks about it all the time. She expects me to be in Gryffindor, like my parents." He looked miserable at the prospect. "I'm probably going to be in Hufflepuff though. I'm not brave at all." "What's wrong with Hufflepuff?" Harry asked. "Helga Hufflepuff is brilliant. Her portrait taught me about magical plants yesterday." Neville's eyes widened. "You've met Hufflepuff's portrait?" "Really? I could introduce you," Harry offered. "She'd like you, I think. You're interested in plants?" Neville nodded eagerly. "I have a greenhouse at home. It's the only place my magic works properly." Harry felt an immediate kinship with the boy. "I know what that's like. My magic was all blocked up until I came here." They talked easily after that, Harry explaining about the founders' portraits and Neville describing different magical plants. By the time the adults called them back, they were chatting like old friends. "Can Neville visit again?" Harry asked as they prepared to leave. "I believe that could be arranged," Madame Longbottom said, looking thoughtfully at her grandson's animated face. "Perhaps next week." Harry grinned at Neville. "I'll show you the founder's study." After they left, Amelia turned to Harry. "Making friends already. Good. You'll need allies in the years ahead." "Allies?" Harry frowned. "He's just a nice boy who likes plants." Sirius ruffled Harry's hair. In the wizarding world, Harry, friendships and alliances often go hand in hand. The Longbottoms are an ancient and noble house, like the Potters. Having them as friends is both personally and politically valuable. Harry considered this. "That sounds complicated." "Welcome to pureblood politics," Sirius grinned. "Don't worry, I'll teach you how to navigate it without turning into a stuck-up prat like my family." Harry looked back toward the castle, feeling its reassuring presence. Is that why Hogwarts chose me now? Because of politics? The castle has its own reasons, Amelia said carefully. But the timing is significant. The wizarding world has been stagnant since Voldemort's fall. Perhaps change is needed. And I'm supposed to help with that? I'm 7. Sirius put an arm around Harry's shoulders. You don't have to save the world today, kiddo. Right now, your job is to learn, grow, and maybe make a few more friends. Harry nodded, relieved. I can do that. As they walked back toward the castle, Harry felt a curious sensation, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place around him. Hogwarts, his godfather, new friends, the knowledge of his heritage. Each day brought new connections, strengthening him. The weight of expectation was there, but for now, it felt manageable. One step at a time, Harry told himself. One day at a time. In the farthest dungeon of Malfoy Manor, Lucius Malfoy stood before an ornate mirror, speaking in hushed tones. The Potter boy has upset everything, my lord. Dumbledore is suspended, the old alliance is fracturing. Some see opportunity in this chaos. The mirror's surface rippled, showing not Lucius's reflection but a shadowy, indistinct form. The boy's existence has always been inconvenient, a high, cold voice replied. But perhaps this development can be turned to our advantage. Tell me of these heir powers. Reports suggest he can control Hogwarts itself, Lucius said. The castle's magic responds to him. Ancient rooms have appeared, and the founder's portraits speak to him directly. Interesting. And disturbing. The voice paused. I, too, had a special connection to Hogwarts, though differently manifested. Monitor the situation closely, Lucius. The boy may be useful, or necessary to eliminate. Yes, my lord. What of Dumbledore? Let him fall. His removal serves us well. The shadowy form shifted. But Sirius Black's freedom is problematic. The boy will be better protected now. Black has claimed guardianship, Lucius confirmed. They're already inseparable. Find a way to separate them, then. The boy must be isolated, vulnerable when the time comes. The voice grew fainter. I grow weary. Continue your work, Lucius. Our time approaches. The mirror cleared, leaving Lucius staring at his own pale reflection. He straightened his robes and turned away. Plots within plots, that was the way of Slytherin. And if the Potter boy thought himself safe at Hogwarts, he would soon learn otherwise. The real game was only beginning. Harry stood at the window of his quarters, watching the sun rise over Hogwarts grounds. Behind him, Sirius slept on a transfigured couch, having stayed up late telling Harry stories about his father's Hogwarts adventures. The past 2 weeks had been overwhelming, exhausting, and wonderful. For the first time, Harry felt like he belonged somewhere, like he had a past and a future worth claiming. He pressed his palm against the cool glass. Thank you, he whispered to the castle. In response, the stones beneath his feet warmed slightly. A feeling of welcome, of rightness, washed over him. This was home. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever his role as heir would entail, Harry knew one thing with absolute certainty: he would never be alone again. The castle had claimed him, just as he had claimed it. Together, they would face whatever came next. Chapter 2, Heirs and Alliances. Harry woke to sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows of his quarters, casting rainbow patterns across his bedspread. He blinked sleepily, momentarily disoriented. Even after 3 weeks at Hogwarts, he sometimes expected to open his eyes to the cramped darkness of his cupboard. Morning, pup. Sirius poked his head through the doorway, already dressed and looking more alive than Harry had seen him yet. The hollows in his cheeks were filling out, and his eyes had lost some of their haunted look. McGonagall says your new tutors arrived today, so best get moving. Harry jumped out of bed, excited. Which subjects first? Basic magical theory and control this morning, Sirius replied, tossing Harry a set of clothes. Then history with Bathilda Bagshot herself this afternoon, she practically begged to teach the Hogwarts Heir. He rolled his eyes dramatically, making Harry laugh. As Harry dressed, he felt the familiar gentle hum of the castle responding to his wakefulness. It was like a constant background awareness, the movement of students through hallways, the activities in various rooms, the general mood of Hogwarts itself. The castle feels happy today, Harry commented, pulling on a jumper that actually fit him, one of dozens of new items Sirius had ordered for him. Sirius shook his head, still amazed by Harry's connection to Hogwarts. Well, tell it thanks for the weather. Perfect day for your first proper flying lesson. Harry nearly choked on his excitement. Flying? Really? Today? If McGonagall approves your morning progress reports. Sirius grinned at Harry's enthusiasm. James was a natural flyer. Got on his first broom at your age and zoomed around like he'd been born on one. Harry rushed through the rest of his preparations, eager to start the day. As he headed toward the door, he paused to touch the stone wall affectionately. Morning, he whispered. The stones warmed briefly beneath his fingers in response. Sirius watched this interaction with a mixture of wonder and concern. Does it ever feel overwhelming? This connection to the castle? Harry considered this as they walked toward the great hall for breakfast. Not overwhelming, exactly. More like, having a really big, really quiet friend who's always with me. He shrugged. It's nice, actually. I've never had someone always on my side before. Sirius's expression darkened momentarily, his rage at the Dursleys' treatment of Harry had not diminished with time, but he quickly forced a smile. Well, now you have me too. And I'm considerably more talkative than a pile of enchanted rocks. Harry grinned, ducking under Sirius's arm when his godfather tried to ruffle his hair. Their easy companionship had been the most surprising and wonderful part of the past weeks. Harry had never had an adult who genuinely cared about him, who asked his opinions, who touched him with casual affection instead of anger. As they entered the great hall, several students looked up curiously. Though Harry mostly kept to his private quarters and the Founder's study, occasional interactions with the regular Hogwarts population were inevitable. The Easter holiday students had mostly accepted his presence, though whispers and pointing still followed him everywhere. Mr. Potter. Mr. Black. Professor McGonagall approached from the staff table, a rolled parchment in her hand. Your test results from St. Mungo's have arrived. Harry tensed. 2 days ago, a team of healers had performed comprehensive diagnostic spells to assess the damage from years of malnutrition and neglect, as well as the magical bindings the Sorting Hat had mentioned. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. McGonagall suggested, noticing Harry's apprehension. They followed her to a small antechamber off the Great Hall. Once inside, McGonagall unrolled the parchment and reviewed its contents. The news is generally positive, she began. The nutritional regimen is working, you've gained nearly 3 pounds, and your bone density is improving. The healers estimate another 6 months of potions should reverse most of the physical damage. Sirius gripped Harry's shoulder supportively. And the magical bindings? McGonagall's expression tightened. 3 distinct binding spells were identified. 2 have broken naturally with the Sorting Hat's declaration and Hogwarts recognition. The third is, more complicated. Complicated how? Harry asked. It appears connected to your scar, McGonagall explained carefully. The healers detected dark magic they couldn't fully identify. They're researching possible treatments, but recommend no action until they understand it better. Harry unconsciously touched his lightning scar. Is it dangerous? Not immediately, McGonagall assured him. The castle's magic appears to be containing it effectively. In fact, the healers were quite astonished by the protective magical field surrounding you. That's my doing, came a voice from the wall. They turned to find Helga Hufflepuff peering at them from a small portrait that definitely hadn't been there before. "Founder Hufflepuff!" McGonagall exclaimed. "I didn't realize your portraits could move beyond the study." "Normally they can't," Harry explained. "But the castle's been extending their reach for me." He smiled at the portrait. "Good morning, Helga." "Good morning, young heir." Hufflepuff nodded approvingly. "You're looking stronger already. The healing regimen I suggested is working well." 3 potions daily and special meals, Harry confirmed. "I've grown an inch already." "Excellent. Now, about that scar magic, I've been consulting with Rowena. We believe it's a soul fragment, though how it attached to you is most disturbing. The castle's magic is isolating it quite effectively." McGonagall paled. "A soul fragment? Surely not." Hufflepuff's expression grew serious. "I'm afraid so, Minerva. Dark magic of the blackest kind. But fear not, between the 4 founders' combined knowledge and Hogwarts protection, we'll find a solution." Sirius looked grim. "Is this Voldemort's doing?" "Most likely," Hufflepuff confirmed. "Though whether intentional or accidental, we cannot yet determine." Harry looked between the adults' concerned faces. "But it can be fixed, right?" "Absolutely," Hufflepuff said firmly. "The castle would not have claimed you as heir if your situation were hopeless, child. Trust in Hogwarts." McGonagall cleared her throat. "Well, that's both more concerning and more reassuring than I expected. For now, we'll continue with the healing regimen and your education schedule." She handed Harry another parchment. "Your tutors are waiting in the heir's study." As they left the antechamber, Harry felt the now familiar sensation of the castle's magic swirling around him protectively. Whatever this dark magic in his scar was, he wasn't facing it alone. Lucius Malfoy strode through the Ministry of Magic's atrium, cane tapping rhythmically against the polished floor. Ministry employees scrambled out of his path, recognizing both his expression and purpose. Malfoy was headed to the minister's office, and he was not pleased. Minister Cornelius Fudge rose nervously as Lucius entered without knocking. "Ah, Lucius. I was just about to contact you, were you?" Malfoy's voice was silky with danger. "Perhaps to explain why my request to interview the Potter boy as a concerned member of the Hogwarts Board of Governors has been denied 3 times. Fudge fidgeted with his lime-green bowler hat. "It's a delicate situation, Lucius. The boy's status as Hogwarts heir invokes ancient magic the Ministry cannot simply override. And with Black as his guardian now." Black, Malfoy spat the name. A man who spent 6 years in Azkaban, suddenly deemed fit to raise the boy who lived. The evidence of his innocence was quite overwhelming, Fudge mumbled. Amelia Bones presented a very thorough case. "Bones is becoming a problem," Malfoy observed coldly. "Her investigation into Dumbledore threatens to expand to others who made decisions during that difficult time." Fudge paled, understanding the implied threat. After the war, many Death Eaters had claimed the Imperious Curse defense, Malfoy among them. Renewed scrutiny could prove disastrous. "What would you suggest, Lucius?" Fudge asked, surrendering to the inevitable. Malfoy smiled thinly. "The Wisengamot should appoint a special committee to oversee the Potter boys' education and integration into Wizarding Society. As Hogwarts heir, he holds significant political and magical power, power that should be properly guided. Bones will fight it," Fudge warned. "Then we'll need to give her something else to occupy her attention." Malfoy tapped his cane thoughtfully. "Perhaps renewed interest in certain cold cases from the war. The Lestrange trial, for instance, Black's cousin, after all." Fudge wiped sweat from his brow. "I'll see what can be arranged. The Educational Oversight Committee proposal might gain traction if presented as protecting the boy rather than controlling him." "I knew you'd see reason, Minister." Malfoy rose to leave. "Draft the proposal today. I'll ensure the right votes are in place for tomorrow's session. As he left the minister's office, Malfoy permitted himself a small smile of satisfaction. The Potter boys' emergence as Hogwarts Heir had disrupted many carefully laid plans, but chaos always created new opportunities for those bold enough to seize them. "Focus, Harry," urged Master Ripley, a middle-aged wizard with keen eyes and tremendous patience. "Feel the magic gathering in your core, then direct it gently through your arm to your fingertips." Harry sat cross-legged on a cushion in the Founder's study, eyes closed in concentration. After 3 weeks of daily practice, he could reliably summon his magic without a wand, creating a visible glow around his hand. Today, they were attempting to shape that energy. "Imagine it forming a sphere," Ripley continued. "Contain it, control it." Harry's brow furrowed with effort. The blue light surrounding his right hand pulsed, gradually pulling inward to form a wobbly orb floating just above his palm. He opened his eyes to see his creation and grinned with delight. "I did it." The sphere promptly destabilized, energy dispersing harmlessly into the air. "Excellent progress." Ripley clapped his hands. "Your magical control is advancing remarkably for your age. Most wizard children can't manage deliberate wandless magic until their cores stabilize around age 11. "The castle helps," Harry admitted. "It's like having training wheels on a bicycle." Ripley nodded. "A useful analogy. Hogwarts provides structure while your own abilities develop. Soon you'll maintain control independently." Their lesson was interrupted by Sirius poking his head through the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but Harry has a visitor." Harry climbed to his feet, curious. "Who is it?" "Young Mr. Longbottom has returned," Sirius explained. "With a rather spectacular plant he's been dying to show you." Harry brightened immediately. In the weeks since their first meeting, Neville had visited twice, and they'd become fast friends. Unlike the other children Harry had met, who seemed fascinated by his fame or heir status, Neville just wanted to share his passion for herbology and hear Harry's stories about the founders. "Can we pause here, Master Ripley? We covered a lot today." The tutor nodded, pleased by Harry's politeness. "Certainly. Your control exercises were excellent. Practice forming the sphere for 10 minutes each night before bed." Harry thanked him and dashed out to meet Neville, who waited in the corridor holding what looked like a vibrating potted plant with shimmering silver leaves. "Harry! Look what Gran let me bring from our greenhouse." Neville's normal shyness vanished when discussing plants. "It's a lunar resonance fern, they only bloom during quarter moons, and the leaves can store magical energy." "Brilliant." Harry examined the plant. "Helga would love to see this. Want to bring it to the study?" Neville's eyes widened. "Really? You think she'd talk to me again?" "Course she would. She said you have the best herbology instincts she's seen in centuries." Harry led the way back toward the Founder's study. As they walked, Hogwarts subtly adjusted around them, stairs aligning perfectly, passages shortening to create the most direct route. Harry had grown so accustomed to this that he barely noticed, but Neville still found it astonishing. "The castle really likes you," he observed. "Gran says it never did this even for Dumbledore." Harry shrugged. "It's not just me it responds to. It's starting to recognize you too. Watch." He placed his hand on the wall. "Hogwarts, this is Neville Longbottom. He's my friend and can be trusted." The stones warmed beneath Harry's palm, and a moment later, a small alcove appeared in the previously solid wall, containing a stone bench and a miniature garden of rare magical plants. Neville gasped. "Is that a dawn blossom? They're almost extinct." "The castle created this for you," Harry explained. "It recognizes people I trust." Neville carefully set his fern beside the bench and examined the tiny garden with reverent fingers. "This is amazing, Harry. Thank you." "I didn't do it, Hogwarts did." Harry sat beside his friend. "That's the weird thing about being the heir. People thank me for stuff the castle does, but I'm just, here. Neville looked thoughtful. Gran says being heir isn't just about the castle recognizing you. It's about what you choose to do with that recognition. Harry contemplated this. Over the past weeks, he'd gradually learned more about what being Hogwarts heir meant, the political implications, the historical significance, the expectations people suddenly had of him. It was overwhelming sometimes, but he was learning to separate what mattered from what didn't. "Your Gran's pretty smart," Harry finally said. "How are things at your house? Still practicing with your dad's wand?" Neville's expression fell. "Yeah. It doesn't work right for me, but Gran insists. Says I need to honor his memory by using it." Harry frowned. "But Ollivander's portrait in the North Tower says the wand chooses the wizard. If it didn't choose you, it won't work properly. Try telling Gran that." Neville sighed. "She means well, but she's always comparing me to my dad. Nothing I do is good enough." Harry recognized the feeling all too well. "At least she wants you to succeed. The Dursleys punished me if I did better than Dudley at school. That's horrible." Neville looked genuinely angry on Harry's behalf. "I'm glad you're here now, away from them." "Me too." Harry stood. "Come on, let's show Helga your fern. Maybe she can convince your Gran about the wand thing." As they entered the Founder's study, the 4 portraits brightened with interest. "Young Longbottom returns." Helga Hufflepuff beamed. "And with such a magnificent specimen. Is that a lunar resonance fern?" Neville nodded shyly, holding up the plant. "Yes, ma'am. From our family greenhouse." "Extraordinary." Hufflepuff leaned closer in her frame. "The silver variegation suggests particularly strong magical absorption properties. Have you tested its resonance frequency?" As Neville launched into an enthusiastic explanation of the fern's properties, Harry noticed Gryffindor and Slytherin engaged in a whispered conversation, occasionally glancing at Neville. "Something interesting?" Harry asked them. Gryffindor looked momentarily embarrassed at being caught, but Slytherin merely raised an eyebrow. "We were discussing young Longbottom's magical signature," Slytherin explained. "It has noteworthy characteristics." "Noteworthy how?" Harry pressed. "Similar to yours in certain respects," Gryffindor admitted. "Though oriented differently." Before Harry could ask what that meant, Ravenclaw interrupted from her portrait. "Harry, I believe your godfather is looking for you." "Something about a promised flying lesson?" Harry jumped up. "I almost forgot. Neville, want to come? Sirius is teaching me to fly today." Neville paled slightly. "I'm rubbish at flying. Last time Gran put me on a broom, I broke my wrist." "Sirius is a brilliant teacher," Harry assured him. "And we'll start slow." After a moment's hesitation, Neville nodded. "All right, but don't laugh when I fall off." As they headed out, Harry glanced back to see the Founders once again in deep conversation, with Hufflepuff gesturing emphatically toward the door through which the boys had just left. Something was up with the Founders' interest in Neville, and Harry intended to find out what. The Wizengamot chambers buzzed with tension as Amelia Bones reviewed the newly introduced educational oversight proposal. Across the room, Lucius Malfoy watched with carefully concealed satisfaction as factions began forming, those supporting ministry oversight of Harry Potter's education versus those advocating for the boys' autonomy under Black's guardianship. "This proposal is nothing short of an attempted power grab," Amelia declared, rising to address the assembly. "The ancient right of a magical guardian to determine a child's education cannot be superseded by a ministry committee, particularly when that child is protected by magic as old as Hogwarts itself." Augusta Longbottom stood in support. "Madam Bones is correct. This body has no authority over Hogwarts Heir. The castle's magic has made its choice known, and interfering could have catastrophic magical consequences." Lucius stepped forward smoothly. "No one suggests interfering with ancient magic, merely ensuring proper guidance for a child of enormous significance to our world." Surely we can agree that the boy who lived deserves the finest educational resources our society can provide? Minister Fudge nodded enthusiastically. The ministry only wishes to support young Potter's development. This committee would simply provide additional resources and oversight. Resources and oversight he already receives from qualified tutors, his legal guardian, and Hogwarts itself, Amelia countered. This proposal overreaches the ministry's authority and infringes on magical guardianship rights that have been enshrined in our laws for centuries. The debate continued for hours, growing increasingly heated. What had begun as Malfoy's attempt to gain influence over Harry was evolving into a larger ideological battle about ministry authority, ancient magic, and the autonomy of magical families. In the viewing gallery, Sirius Black watched with growing concern. Beside him sat Remus Lupin, recently returned from abroad upon hearing of Sirius's exoneration and Harry's new status. It's not just about Harry, Remus observed quietly. Malfoy's using this to test how far the ministry can extend its reach into private magical education. Sirius nodded grimly. If they can claim oversight of the Hogwarts Heir's education, they'll have precedent to interfere with any magical child's learning. It's the thin end of the wedge. Where is Harry now? Remus asked. Safe at Hogwarts with McGonagall and the Longbottom boy. Sirius rubbed his tired eyes. I've been shielding him from most of this political rubbish, but he's perceptive. Knows more than he lets on. Down in the chamber, the vote was finally called. To Malfoy's visible frustration, the proposal was narrowly defeated, with several traditionally ministry-aligned families voting against it. A temporary setback, Lucius murmured to his allies. We've planted the seed. Next time, we'll frame it differently. As the session adjourned, Amelia approached Sirius and Remus. That was closer than I'd like, she admitted. Malfoy won't stop here. He's building towards something larger. I know, Sirius agreed. But what? Control of the narrative, for starters. Amelia handed him a copy of the Evening Prophet. The headline read, Questions arise about Hogwarts Heir's upbringing. Experts express concern over Black's fitness as guardian. Sirius swore under his breath. They're trying to undermine my guardianship now. It was inevitable, Remus said, skimming the article. You're the biggest obstacle to anyone trying to influence or control Harry. Discredit you, and they create an opening. We need to shore up your position, Amelia advised. The guardianship is magically and legally sound, but public perception matters in these situations. Harry should be seen in public with you, happy and well-adjusted. Sirius looked uncertain. I've been keeping him away from crowds and reporters. The last thing he needs is more attention. A controlled appearance would be better than speculation, Remus suggested. Perhaps a supervised trip to Diagon Alley. Something normal that shows Harry is thriving under your care. Sirius nodded reluctantly. I'll discuss it with Harry. He's been wanting to visit Flourish and Blots anyway, the kid's turning into quite the bookworm. Like his mother, Amelia said with a small smile. Lily was brilliant. He has her heart too, Sirius added softly. You should see how he is with the Longbottom boy, took him under his wing immediately, builds up his confidence. James would be proud, Remus said. Both of Harry and of you, Sirius. You've stepped up admirably. Sirius straightened his robes, determination replacing weariness. Let's get back to Hogwarts. I don't like leaving Harry for too long, even with the castle protecting him. As they left the ministry, none of them noticed the beetle perched on Amelia's collar, its antennae twitching with interest at everything it had heard. Harry and Neville lay flat on their backs in the middle of the Quidditch pitch, breathless from laughter and exertion after their flying lesson. Sirius had taught them basic hovering and gentle turns, and while Neville had indeed fallen off once, he'd immediately gotten back on the training broom with Harry's encouragement. That was brilliant, Harry declared, watching clouds drift overhead. Way better than I imagined. I didn't break anything, Neville said proudly. And I actually stayed on for 10 whole minutes that last time. See? You're not rubbish at all. Harry turned his head to look at his friend. You just needed the right teacher. Sirius says most things are like that. It's not that you can't do something, it's just that you haven't found the right way to learn it yet. Neville considered this, then nodded. Like my dad's wand. Maybe I'm not bad at magic, maybe I just need my own wand. Exactly. Harry sat up excitedly. We should tell your Gran that. The founders would back us up too, they're always talking about magical compatibility and proper channeling. Before Neville could respond, a shimmering silver wolf bounded across the pitch toward them, stopping a few feet away. It opened its mouth and spoke with Remus Lupin's voice, Harry, Sirius and I are returning from the ministry. Meet us in your quarters in 20 minutes. Nothing to worry about, just news to share. As the Patronus faded, Neville looked at Harry with wide eyes. Was that a message spell? A Patronus, Harry explained, standing and brushing grass from his clothes. Remus taught Sirius to cast it last week. It's dead useful, can't be intercepted like owls. They collected the training brooms and headed back toward the castle. As they walked, Harry noticed Neville glancing at him curiously. What? Harry asked. Just thinking, Neville replied. You've learned so much in a few weeks. You talk about advanced magic like it's normal. Harry hadn't considered this. Between the founder's teachings, his specialized tutors, and Sirius and Remus's stories, he had absorbed an enormous amount of magical knowledge in a short time. Not all practical yet, he couldn't cast many actual spells without a wand, but the theory was becoming second nature. I guess I have, Harry admitted. But it's not like I'm special or anything. You would learn just as fast with the same teachers. Neville looked doubtful. Gran says I'm nearly a squib. Harry stopped walking abruptly. That's rubbish. The founders saw your magical signature, remember? Gryffindor and Slytherin were both interested in it. They wouldn't care if you were nearly a squib. Really? Neville's voice was small but hopeful. Really? And they know more about magic than your Gran, no offense. Harry continued walking, a plan forming in his mind. You should stay for dinner. I'll ask the founders about your magic directly, with you there. Then you can tell your Gran exactly what they said. By the time they reached the castle, Neville was walking with slightly more confidence. Harry felt a rush of protectiveness toward his friend. He knew what it was like to be told you were worthless, to have adults undermine your confidence rather than build it. He wouldn't let that happen to Neville if he could help it. When they reached Harry's quarters, they found Sirius and Remus already waiting. Both men looked tired but relieved to see the boys. Ah, the young aviator's return. Sirius greeted them. How was the flying lesson? Brilliant. Harry exclaimed. Neville stayed on the whole time for the last flight. He's a natural once he got confident. Neville blushed at the praise but smiled proudly. Harry's the natural. He was doing loops by the end. Remus chuckled. James's son, without a doubt. He was doing loops his first time on a broom too. Sirius performed quick introductions between Remus and Neville, then turned to Harry with a more serious expression. Harry, we need to discuss some things happening at the ministry. Political things that might affect you. Harry nodded, unsurprised. He'd gathered from snippets of adult conversations that his status as Hogwarts Heir was causing political ripples. Can Neville stay? He asked. His Gran is on the Wisingamot, so he understands this stuff. After exchanging glances with Remus, Sirius nodded. If Neville's comfortable with it. I'll stay, Neville said quietly. Gran says I need to learn about politics anyway. They all sat in a comfortable seating area near the fireplace. Sirius explained the day's events, Malfoy's proposal, the debate, and the newspaper's attempt to question Sirius's guardianship. So they want to control me, Harry summarized. But they can't say that directly, so they're trying to control who teaches me and who takes care of me instead. Remus looked impressed. That's exactly it, Harry. We think a carefully managed public appearance might help, Sirius continued. Show everyone you're happy and healthy with me as your guardian. Harry considered this. We could go to Diagon Alley. I've been wanting to visit the bookstore, and Neville mentioned a shop that sells rare plant seeds. If your grandmother approves, Neville would be welcome to join us, Remus added. Having you with a friend would reinforce the image of normal childhood development. Neville brightened at the invitation. I'll ask her tonight. Harry turned back to Sirius. What about Hogwarts? Will it be okay if I leave? McGonagall consulted the founders about that, Sirius explained. Apparently, once recognized, the heir can come and go freely. The castle's protection extends beyond its walls to a certain degree, though it's strongest while you're here. Oh, Harry said. That reminds me, what did the founders mean about Neville's magical signature being similar to mine? Sirius and Remus exchanged startled glances. When did they say this? Remus asked carefully. Today, when Neville was showing his plant to Helga. Gryffindor and Slytherin were whispering about his magical signature having noteworthy characteristics similar to mine. Neville looked stunned. They said that? About me? Sirius leaned forward, suddenly intensely focused. Harry, this could be important. What exactly did they say? Harry tried to recall the precise wording. Something like, it has noteworthy characteristics similar to mine, though oriented differently. What does that mean? Remus and Sirius exchanged another meaningful look. We should speak with the founders, Remus suggested. If they're seeing a pattern. A pattern of what? Harry asked. Sirius sighed. There's an old prophecy, more of a legend, really, about the heirs of Hogwarts returning in a time of great need. Not just Gryffindor's heir, but all four founders' heirs, uniting to restore what was lost. You think Neville might be? Harry turned to his friend, who looked utterly bewildered. It's just speculation, Remus cautioned. But if the founders themselves noticed a similarity in your magical signatures, it bears investigation. Neville shook his head. But I can barely do any magic. My family thought I was a squib until I was 8. Which actually supports the theory, Remus said gently. Harry's magic was bound, suppressing his natural abilities. If you're an heir as well, your magic might be similarly constrained, though perhaps by different means. The wand, Harry realized. You're using your dad's wand, not one that chose you. What if that's blocking your magic? A look of hope crossed Neville's face. Could it really be that simple? One way to find out, Sirius declared, standing up. Let's pay a visit to the founders' study and hear what they have to say about this directly. The founders' study was unusually quiet when they entered, all four portraits appearing deep in thought. They straightened with interest when they saw the unusual group approaching. Ah, the wolf returns to Hogwarts, Slytherin observed, eyeing Remus. And with questions, if I'm not mistaken. Indeed, Founder Slytherin, Remus bowed respectfully. About young Neville here, and what you observed regarding his magical signature. Gryffindor leaned forward in his portrait. You were always perceptive, Lupin. Yes, we've been discussing this very matter since the boy's earlier visit. Is Neville an heir too? Harry asked directly, never one to beat around the bush. The founders exchanged glances before Ravenclaw spoke. We believe young Longbottom may indeed carry founder blood, though the connection is less direct than yours, Harry. Hufflepuff's line, if our observations are correct, Slytherin added. The magical signature shows the characteristic patterns, nurturing, growth-oriented, strongly connected to living things. Hufflepuff beamed proudly. I suspected as much when I saw his innate understanding of magical plants. Such affinity doesn't come from study alone, it's in the blood. Neville looked stunned. But I can barely do magic. Because you're using another wizard's wand. Hufflepuff exclaimed. The most fundamental rule of channeling magic. Even Godric and Salazar agree on this, and they rarely agree on anything. It's true, Gryffindor confirmed. A wand that hasn't chosen you will resist your magical imprint, creating a partial block almost as effective as a binding spell. But why wouldn't I have been recognized as an heir? Neville asked. Like Harry was? Ravenclaw answered this one. The castle responds to need and circumstance. Harry's situation was dire: abuse, bound magic, isolation. The castle recognized both his bloodline and his immediate need for protection. Your situation, while not ideal, was not life-threatening, Slytherin added pragmatically. And unlike Harry, your magical potential has been suppressed more by circumstance than deliberate binding. Hufflepuff leaned as far forward in her frame as possible. Neville, dear, you must get your own wand. Once your magic flows through a proper channel, I believe the castle will respond more strongly to your presence. There's more, Gryffindor said gravely. A prophecy made at Hogwarts founding speaks of 4 heirs returning when the school faces its darkest hour. If our suspicions are correct, 2 have already been identified. 2 out of 4, Harry mused, glancing at Neville. Do you think the others are our age too? Most likely, Ravenclaw confirmed. Magic often works in patterns. For heirs, for houses, for elements of power. Sirius, who had been listening intently, finally spoke up. This prophecy, does it say what the heirs are supposed to do when they return? Unite the houses, restore the true purpose of Hogwarts, and defeat a great darkness, Slytherin recited. Typical prophetic vagueness, but the core meaning is clear enough. Voldemort, Harry said quietly. The darkness is Voldemort, isn't it? The room fell silent at the name, but none of the founders flinched. Most likely, Gryffindor finally answered. Though darkness takes many forms. Sometimes the greatest threats come from within rather than without. Remus placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. This is a lot for both boys to process. Perhaps we should continue this discussion after they've had time to absorb it. A wise suggestion, Ravenclaw agreed. But before you go, Neville Longbottom, come closer. Neville nervously approached Hufflepuff's portrait. Child, she said gently, you are not lacking in magic or courage. You are simply waiting for the right catalyst. Get your own wand, trust your instincts, and remember, you were chosen for a reason, just as Harry was. Neville straightened slightly, nodding. I'll try to remember that, Founder Hufflepuff. As they left the study, Harry noticed Neville walking differently, not exactly confidently, but with purpose. He felt a similar change in himself. The knowledge that they might be part of something larger, that they'd been chosen rather than accidentally thrust into these roles, was both terrifying and oddly comforting. So, Sirius said as they walked back toward Harry's quarters, it seems a trip to Ollivanders might be in order for both of you. Will they let me have a wand early? Harry asked. I thought wizards usually get them at 11. Special circumstances call for special arrangements, Remus replied. And nothing about your situation is ordinary, Harry. Besides, Sirius added with a mischievous grin, when has following every rule ever been the Marauder way? 2 days later, Harry stood in Sirius's private quarters, examining his reflection in the mirror. His new robes were emerald green, brings out your eyes, just like your mother's, Sirius had said, and for once his hair was almost cooperating after Remus had applied a special grooming charm. Remember, Sirius coached him, straightening Harry's collar, you don't have to talk to any reporters if you don't want to. Just be yourself, enjoy the shops, and try not to blow anything up. Harry rolled his eyes. When have I ever blown anything up? Last Tuesday, Remus called from the other room. The experimental potion with Salazar? That was a controlled explosion, Harry protested. He said it was supposed to fizz dramatically. Sirius laughed, ruffling Harry's carefully tamed hair. Just try to keep the dramatic fizzing to a minimum in public, all right? The Daily Prophet already thinks I'm a reckless guardian. A knock at the door announced Augusta and Neville Longbottom's arrival. Augusta looked as formidable as ever in her vulture-topped hat, but something about her expression had softened when she looked at Neville. After hearing the founder's assessment of her grandson, she'd been unusually quiet, and now regarded him with a more thoughtful consideration. "Ready for your adventure, boys?" she asked briskly. Harry and Neville nodded eagerly. This would be Harry's first proper trip to Diagon Alley, his first trip anywhere, really, besides Privet Drive and Hogwarts. "Excellent. We'll flow directly to the Leaky Cauldron. Harry, have you traveled by Flow Powder before?" When Harry shook his head, Sirius quickly explained the process and demonstrated the proper pronunciation. "It's Diagon Alley, not diagonally. Nice and clear." One by one, they stepped into the large fireplace in McGonagall's office, threw down their Flow Powder, and disappeared in bursts of green flame. Harry went second to last, with Sirius following to ensure he arrived safely. The sensation was horrible, spinning and tumbling through darkness, glimpsing strange rooms as he passed. Just when he thought he might be sick, he was ejected into a dimly lit pub, stumbling forward into Remus's steadying hands. "Well done," Remus said approvingly. "Most people fall flat on their face their first time." The Leaky Cauldron fell abruptly silent as people recognized first Sirius Black, then Harry Potter. Whispers immediately broke out across the room. "Is that the Hogwarts Heir?" Black looked so different, the boy who lived. Sirius placed a protective hand on Harry's shoulder. "Good morning, everyone," he said cheerfully but firmly. "Just taking my godson shopping today. Nothing to see here." Tom the barkeeper hurried forward. "Mr. Black, Mr. Potter, welcome. Can I offer you anything?" "On the house, of course." "Perhaps on our return," Augusta intervened smoothly. "The boys are eager to begin their shopping." They made their way through the pub to the back courtyard, where Sirius tapped the brick wall with his wand. Harry watched in wonder as the bricks rearranged themselves to form an archway revealing a winding cobblestone street lined with the most extraordinary shops he'd ever seen. "Welcome to Diagon Alley, Harry," Sirius said, enjoying his godson's awestruck expression. Harry tried to look everywhere at once, at the window displaying racing brooms, at the apothecary with strange creatures floating in jars, at the bookshop with volumes rearranging themselves in the window display, at the ice cream parlor serving treats that changed color as they were eaten. "It's brilliant," he breathed. "First stop, Ollivanders," Augusta declared. "Let's get these boys their wands before anything else." They proceeded down the alley, drawing considerable attention. People stopped and stared, some bowing or waving to Harry, others pointing and whispering behind their hands. Harry tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the fascinating shops and the comfort of having Sirius, Remus, Augusta, and Neville around him. Ollivanders was a narrow, shabby shop with a single wand displayed on a faded purple cushion in the window. As they entered, a bell tinkled somewhere in the depths of the shop, and an old man with wide, pale eyes appeared from between the towering shelves. "Ah," he said softly. "I've been expecting you, Mr. Potter. And young Mr. Longbottom as well. A most interesting day indeed." "You've been expecting us?" Harry asked. "Word travels quickly when Hogwarts Heir is recognized." Ollivander's silvery eyes gleamed with interest. "And when the founders' portraits themselves recommend early wanding, well, who am I to argue with the architects of modern magical education?" He turned to Neville first. "You've been using your father's wand, I believe. Cedar and dragon heartstring, 12¼ inches, quite rigid." Augusta looked startled. "How did you? I remember every wand I've ever sold, Madame Longbottom." Frank's wand was suited to protection and defensive magic, a brave man's wand. But not, I think, the right match for his son. Ollivander began pulling boxes from the shelves. "Let's see what chooses you, shall we?" Neville tried several wands without success before Ollivander presented a light-colored wand with an elegantly carved handle. "Cherry and unicorn hair. 13 inches, yielding. A healer's wand, excellent for herbology and natural magics. The moment Neville grasped it, his entire demeanor changed. His back straightened, his eyes widened, and a shower of golden sparks erupted from the wand's tip, forming the brief image of a flowering plant before fading. "Oh!" Neville gasped. It feels right." Augusta's stern expression softened with something like wonder. "It's beautiful, Neville." "The wand chooses the wizard," Ollivander said with satisfaction. "Always." "Now, Mr. Potter." Finding Harry's wand proved more challenging. Wand after wand was tried and rejected, the pile of discarded boxes growing steadily larger. Far from being discouraged, Ollivander seemed increasingly delighted with each failure. "Tricky customer. Excellent. I do enjoy a challenge." Finally, he hesitated, then selected a box from the very back of the shop. "I wonder, an unusual combination. Holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple." The moment Harry touched the wand, he felt a sudden warmth in his fingers. He raised it above his head and brought it swishing down, producing a stream of red and gold sparks that illuminated the dusty shop with dancing light. Ollivander clapped his hands together. "Bravo! Yes, indeed, very good. But curious, very curious." "What's curious?" Harry asked. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. The phoenix whose tail feather resides in your wand gave just one other feather. Just one. It is curious that you should be destined for this wand when its brother gave you that scar." A chill ran through the shop. Sirius stepped forward protectively. "You're saying Harry's wand is connected to Voldemort's?" Ollivander flinched at the name but nodded. "The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Black. We can expect great things from Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great." Harry stared at his wand with new wonder and unease. Connected to Voldemort? What did that mean for him? "Don't worry," Neville whispered beside him. "It doesn't mean anything bad about you. My gran says wands are tools, it's the wizard that matters." Harry nodded gratefully for his friend's support. As they paid for their wands, Sirius insisting on covering both despite Augusta's protests, Harry felt another piece of his identity sliding into place. First Hogwarts Heir, now a wand with a curious connection to his past. The weight of expectation grew heavier, but so did his determination to live up to it. Their next stop was Flourish and Blots, where Harry selected books on magical theory, Hogwarts history, and defensive magic. Neville chose several advanced herbology texts, his newfound confidence evident in his decisive selections. As they browsed, Harry noticed a pale, pointed-faced boy about his age watching him from behind a bookshelf. When their eyes met, the boy approached, his expression a mixture of curiosity and calculation. "You're Harry Potter," he stated rather than asked. "I'm Draco Malfoy." Harry recognized the name immediately from Sirius's descriptions of the political maneuvering at the Ministry. "Hello," he replied cautiously. "Is it true you're living at Hogwarts now? Father says the castle actually responds to you." "It does," Harry confirmed, seeing no reason to deny it. Draco looked impressed despite himself. "And Black is your guardian? Father says he's teaching you dark magic." Harry laughed outright at this. "That's ridiculous. Sirius hates the dark arts." "Oh." Draco seemed momentarily disconcerted by this direct contradiction of his father's claims. "Well, when you come to Hogwarts properly, you should consider your associations carefully. Some wizarding families are better than others. I could help you there." Before Harry could respond, Neville appeared at his side, holding his new wand and a stack of books. "Harry, look what I found on magical plant crossbreeding. You're with Longbottom." Draco's lip curled slightly. "My father says he's practically a squib." Harry felt a flash of anger. "Your father's wrong. Neville's brilliant with plants, and he's just gotten his own wand." The founders themselves said he has exceptional magical potential. Draco looked taken aback, glancing between Harry and Neville with reassessment in his eyes. The founders? You've spoken to them? Their portraits, Neville explained, surprising Harry with his steady voice. They've been teaching us. This information clearly unsettled Draco's worldview. He opened his mouth to respond when a tall man with the same pale, pointed features and long blonde hair approached. Draco, Lucius Malfoy said smoothly. I see you've met Mr. Potter. Mr. Malfoy, Harry acknowledged politely but coolly, remembering everything Sirius and Amelia had told him about this man's political machinations. How fascinating to meet Hogwarts Heir in person. Malfoy's eyes glittered with assessment. I'm sure you're finding your sudden elevation educational. Very, Harry replied simply, unwilling to be drawn into whatever conversational trap Malfoy was setting. Lucius turned his attention to Neville. And young Mr. Longbottom. Your grandmother continues to be a formidable presence in the Wizengamot. Yes, sir, Neville said, gripping his new wand tightly. She speaks her mind. Indeed she does. Malfoy's gaze flicked to Neville's wand. A new acquisition. I was under the impression you used your father's wand. Before Neville could answer, Sirius appeared at Harry's side, his expression hardening when he saw Malfoy. Lucius. Hovering around children as usual, I see. Black. Malfoy's lip curled slightly. Enjoying your rehabilitation? Immensely. Sirius placed a protective hand on Harry's shoulder. Harry, Neville, if you've selected your books, Madame Longbottom is waiting at the counter. With polite nods to the Malfoys, the boys moved away, though Harry could feel Lucius's calculating gaze following them. That's the man trying to control my education? Harry asked Sirius quietly. One of them, Sirius confirmed. Notice how he was assessing you, looking for weaknesses or leverage points. He seemed very interested in Neville too, Harry observed. That's because his father is targeting House Longbottom's voting bloc, Augusta said as they approached the counter. Neville, you handled yourself well. Polite but not submissive. Well done. Neville straightened at the rare praise from his grandmother. Harry noticed that having his own wand seemed to have already affected Neville's confidence. He stood taller, spoke more clearly, and met people's eyes more directly. After paying for their books, they visited the apothecary for potions ingredients, then Magical Menagerie where Sirius insisted on buying Harry an unusual snowy owl that had immediately flown to his shoulder when they entered. Every wizard needs a familiar, Sirius explained as Harry stroked the beautiful bird's feathers. And she clearly chose you. I'll call her Hedwig, Harry decided, remembering the name from a history of magic text. Is that all right, girl? The owl gave a dignified hoot of approval, nipping his finger affectionately. Their final stop was Fortescue's ice cream parlor, where Florian himself served them elaborate sundaes with great ceremony, refusing payment from Hogwarts Heir and his distinguished companions. As they enjoyed their treats, Harry noticed people subtly, and some not so subtly, watching their group, particularly how comfortable and happy he appeared with Sirius. He realized this was exactly the image they had hoped to project, Harry Potter thriving under his godfather's care, a normal child enjoying ice cream with friends. Mission accomplished, Remus murmured, following Harry's gaze to the onlookers. The Prophet's photographer caught at least a dozen shots of you and Sirius looking like a proper family. That should counter the negative articles. Harry nodded, licking his spoon. Good. I don't want anyone taking me away from Sirius. Not going to happen, pup, Sirius assured him. The ministry would have to go through me, Hogwarts, and the founders themselves. Even Lucius Malfoy isn't that powerful. As they finished their ice cream and prepared to return to Hogwarts, Harry felt a strange sensation, a distant pull on his magic, like Hogwarts calling him back. He touched his scar, which had begun to prickle uncomfortably. Harry? Neville asked, noticing his friend's distraction. You all right? Something's wrong, Harry said quietly. At Hogwarts. I can feel it. Sirius immediately became alert. What kind of wrong? I don't know exactly. Just, something dark. Something that doesn't belong. Harry closed his eyes, trying to interpret the strange sensations. The castle wants me to come back. Augusta exchanged concerned glances with Sirius and Remus. We should return immediately. If Hogwarts itself is calling to its heir. They quickly gathered their packages and made their way back to the leaky cauldron, ignoring the curious stares that followed them. As they prepared to flee back to Hogwarts, Harry felt the pull strengthen, accompanied by a sharper pain in his scar. Something was definitely wrong at Hogwarts, and somehow, Harry knew it was connected to him. To Voldemort. To the prophecy the founders had mentioned. The real test of what it meant to be Hogwarts heir was about to begin. When they emerged from McGonagall's fireplace back at Hogwarts, they found the acting headmistress waiting for them with a grave expression. "Thank goodness you've returned," she said. "There's been a breach in the castle's defenses." "I felt it," Harry said, his scar still tingling uncomfortably. "What happened?" "Someone attempted to access the third-floor corridor, the one you mentioned feeling wrong some weeks ago," McGonagall explained. "The castle's defenses repelled them, but not before they managed to disable several protective enchantments." "Who was it?" Sirius demanded. "We don't know," McGonagall admitted. "They wore concealing charms. But they were clearly after whatever Dumbledore has hidden there." "And what exactly is that?" Augusta asked sharply. McGonagall hesitated. "I'm not at liberty to say, but it's an object of great magical significance that Dumbledore brought to Hogwarts for safekeeping earlier this year." Harry's scar throbbed. "It's connected to Voldemort somehow, isn't it? That's why my scar hurts when I'm near that corridor." The adults exchanged alarmed looks. "Your scar hurts near the corridor?" Remus asked. "Harry, why didn't you mention this before?" Harry shrugged. "I didn't think it was important. Lots of things have been happening. We need to speak with the founders," McGonagall decided. "If anyone knows the full capabilities of Hogwarts defenses, it would be them." They hurried to the founders' study, Harry and Neville still clutching their new wands and purchases. The 4 portraits were already in a state of agitation when they arrived. "The castle has been breached," Slytherin stated without preamble. "An artifact of dark magic threatens our sanctuary." "We felt it," Ravenclaw added. "As did young Harry, it seems." Harry stepped forward. "What's hidden in the third-floor corridor? And why does it make my scar hurt?" The founders exchanged glances before Gryffindor answered. "Dumbledore brought an ancient artifact here for protection, the Philosopher's Stone, created by Nicholas Flamel. It grants immortality and unlimited gold to its possessor." "That's what the intruder was after," Hufflepuff said grimly. "But there's more. The stone's presence has been calling to something. Something connected to your scar, Harry." "Voldemort," Harry whispered, understanding dawning. "He's not completely gone, is he? That's why my scar still connects to him. That's why it hurts near the stone, he wants it for immortality." "We believe so," Ravenclaw confirmed. "The fragment of dark magic in your scar appears to be a connection to the Dark Lord, one that responds when his essence is near." "His essence?" Sirius looked horrified. "Are you saying part of Voldemort is here at Hogwarts?" "A shade, perhaps," Slytherin said thoughtfully. "A remnant of his power, seeking physical form. The stone would certainly help accomplish that goal." McGonagall paled. "We must remove the stone immediately." "Agreed," Augusta said firmly. "I'll contact Amelia Bones. This is a matter for the Department of Magical Law Enforcement now." "The castle can help," Harry offered. "I can ask it to strengthen the defenses around the corridor until the stone is removed." "Do so," Gryffindor instructed. "But be cautious, Harry. Your connection to both Hogwarts and Voldemort places you in a uniquely vulnerable position. Harry nodded, then closed his eyes, focusing on his connection to the castle. He visualized the third-floor corridor, mentally requesting additional protections around whatever lay within. He felt Hogwarts respond, stone walls thickening, ancient wards awakening, suits of armor moving into defensive positions throughout the nearby hallways. When he opened his eyes, he found everyone watching him with varying expressions of awe and concern. "It's done," he said simply. "The castle has sealed off the corridor completely. No one can enter without my permission now." "Remarkable," Remus murmured. "The level of control you've developed in just a few weeks." "It's not really control," Harry tried to explain. "It's more like, asking nicely. The castle wants to help." Neville, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. "Harry, should I try too? If I really am Hufflepuff's heir, maybe I can help somehow." The founders brightened at this suggestion. "An excellent idea," Hufflepuff encouraged. "Your affinity for growing things could strengthen the living defenses, the Devil's Snare and other botanical guardians." Looking nervous but determined, Neville closed his eyes and gripped his new wand. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, a soft golden glow emanated from his hand, spreading up his arm and disappearing into the floor. "I can feel them," he said wonderingly. "The plants throughout the castle. They're responding to me." Two heirs working in concert, Slytherin observed with satisfaction. "The castle's defenses grow stronger by the minute." McGonagall shook her head in amazement. "In all my years at Hogwarts, Albus never achieved this level of communion with the castle itself." "Dumbledore is a powerful wizard," Gryffindor acknowledged. "But he is not of founder blood. The castle responds differently to its true heirs." As the adults began discussing plans for removing the stone and investigating the intruder, Harry and Neville exchanged looks of shared wonder and trepidation. Their roles as heirs had suddenly become very real, with tangible responsibilities and dangers. "You were brilliant," Harry told his friend quietly. "I knew you had strong magic." Neville looked down at his wand in amazement. "I felt it this time, really felt it. My magic, I mean. It's always been there, just, blocked somehow." "Like mine was," Harry nodded. "Different cause, same effect." "Do you think we'll find the other two heirs?" Neville asked. "Ravenclaws and Slytherins?" "I think they'll find us," Harry replied with certainty he couldn't explain. "That's how it works, isn't it? Magic bringing together what belongs together." The quiet conversation between the young heirs went unnoticed by the adults, who were now formulating plans for increased security and expedited removal of the stone. But the founders watched the boys with knowing expressions, recognizing the beginning of something that had been prophesied centuries ago. The heirs of Hogwarts were awakening, and with them, the true power of the castle itself. In the shadows of the Forbidden Forest, a hooded figure staggered among the trees, weakened and enraged. "Foiled again," hissed a voice that seemed to come not from the figure itself, but from within it. "The stone was within our grasp." Master, I'm sorry," stammered the host body. The castle's defenses suddenly strengthened. It was as if Hogwarts itself was fighting against us. The boy, the parasitic presence seethed. "Potter. I felt his magic intervening. How is this possible? He is a mere child. The rumors say he's Hogwarts heir now, my lord. The castle responds to him." A cold, unnatural laugh emanated from the shared body. "How ironic. My own descendant, Slytherin's blood, opposing me. The boy has power he doesn't understand, power that should rightfully be mine." The figure slumped against a tree, host and parasite both weakened by their failed attempt. "We must find another way," the voice continued after a moment. "Another approach. The stone would have been ideal, but there are alternatives." "What shall we do, Master?" "Return to the castle. Continue your teaching duties as if nothing has happened. I must conserve my strength, observe the boy, learn his weaknesses. The voice grew thoughtful. He is connected to me still. I felt it when we were near, the fragment of my soul that resides within his scar, calling to me. Your soul, master. Silence, fool. You understand nothing of the magic I have wrought to ensure my immortality. The voice calmed itself. The boy is protected for now, but every protection has its flaw. Every heir has his weakness. As the figure made its way back toward the distant lights of Hogwarts, a plan began forming, not a direct assault, but something more insidious. If the Hogwarts heir could not be overcome by force, perhaps he could be undermined from within. After all, what were the castle's defenses against the enemy already inside? Chapter 3, Coming into Power, Duck. Harry shouted, diving behind a stone pillar as a jet of orange light zipped past his ear. The spell hit the wall behind him, leaving a smoking scorch mark. Neville rolled to his right, firing back with a perfectly aimed Expelliarmus. Their opponent's wand flew from her hand, but she summoned it back wandlessly before it hit the ground. Nice try, boys, Susan Bones called, her red hair flying as she spun to deflect Harry's follow-up stunner. But you'll need to do better than that. Harry caught Neville's eye and nodded slightly. They'd practiced this move for weeks. Neville shot a spray of water across the floor while Harry froze it instantly with a well-placed freezing charm. Susan slipped, momentarily losing her balance. That split second was all Harry needed. Funis Ligure. Magical ropes shot from his wand, wrapping around Susan before she could recover. Match point, called Remus from the sidelines, clapping appreciatively. Well-executed combination attack. Susan laughed as Neville helped untie her. You got me. That ice trick was clever. It was Neville's idea, Harry said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Using environmental changes instead of direct attacks. Plants adapt to their surroundings, Neville shrugged. Figured wizards could too. It had been nearly a year since the Sorting Hat declared Harry the heir of Hogwarts, and what a year it had been. At 8, almost 9, years old, Harry Potter was unrecognizable from the malnourished, frightened boy who'd arrived at Hogwarts. He stood taller, his body strong and healthy from proper nutrition and daily physical training. His green eyes, no longer hidden behind broken glasses but corrected by magical means, shone with confidence and intelligence. The training hall they currently occupied hadn't existed a year ago, or rather, it had existed but remained hidden for centuries until Hogwarts revealed it to her heir. Located deep within the castle's east wing, the circular room featured resilient stone floors, practice dummies, and specialized areas for different magical disciplines. It had become the center of what Sirius jokingly called Air Force One, Harry's core group of young allies who trained alongside him. Excellent session, all three of you, Sirius praised, joining them in the center of the hall. Susan, your shield charms are getting stronger every week. Susan beamed at the compliment. As Amelia Bones' niece, she'd been the first child invited to join Harry's special education program 6 months ago. Her natural talent for defensive magic and straightforward personality had quickly endeared her to both Harry and Neville. I've been practicing that wandless recall like you showed me, she said, tucking her wand into its holster. Aunt Amelia says it's a crucial skill for any Auror. Speaking of your aunt, Remus consulted his pocket watch, we should get you 3 cleaned up. The delegation from the ministry arrives in 40 minutes. Harry groaned. Do we really have to meet with them? It's Saturday. Politics doesn't take weekends off, pup, Sirius ruffled Harry's perpetually messy hair. Besides, it's just a brief meeting. Minister Fudge wants to personally assess your educational progress. He means he wants to show the papers he's involved in my education, Harry corrected, showing his growing political awareness. Election year's coming up. Neville nodded sagely. Gran says Fudge is worried about Amelia Bones challenging him next year. Smart kids, Sirius grinned. Too smart for politicians to handle. Now go get showered and changed, formal robes for this one. As they headed toward the changing rooms, Harry felt the familiar warm pulse of Hogwarts magic around him. Over the past year, his connection with the castle had deepened dramatically. It was no longer just awareness or the ability to ask for help, it had evolved into a genuine communion. Hogwarts didn't communicate in words exactly, but in impressions, emotions, and images that Harry had learned to interpret with remarkable accuracy. Right now, the castle was alerting him to something unusual in the entrance hall. Someone's arrived early, he told the others, pausing. Someone the castle doesn't recognize, but also does. It's strange. Sirius and Remus exchanged glances. Define strange, Remus said cautiously. Harry closed his eyes, allowing the castle's impressions to flow through him. It's like, the castle recognizes their magical signature from long ago, but it's changed somehow. Darker. He opened his eyes. It's Dumbledore. And he's brought someone with him. Dumbledore wasn't scheduled to return until next week, Sirius frowned. The former headmaster had spent the past year in a strange limbo, neither fully reinstated nor completely dismissed. After extensive Wisengamot hearings, he'd been allowed limited access to Hogwarts for specific purposes, mostly research in the restricted archives that only he could navigate. We should hurry, Remus suggested. If Dumbledore's here early and with an unknown guest. It might be nothing, Sirius cautioned, seeing Harry's expression grow serious. But better prepared than surprised. 20 minutes to get ready, then meet in your study. Harry's study had once been a normal classroom before Hogwarts transformed it into a command center of sorts for its heir. Warm wood paneling covered walls lined with bookshelves, magical maps, and communication devices. A large round table dominated the center, surrounded by comfortable chairs that adjusted to whoever sat in them. Harry arrived first, freshly showered and dressed in formal robes of deep green with the Potter crest subtly embroidered in silver thread. He paused before a large mirror near the door. Not bad, Potter, he told his reflection. The skinny, neglected child from Privet Drive was gone. Regular meals, exercise, and proper care had worked wonders. He was still small for his age, the years of malnutrition had taken their toll, but he'd grown 4 inches and gained nearly 20 pounds of healthy weight in the past year. More significant was the change in his bearing. He stood straight, moved with purpose, and met gazes directly. Sirius called it proper heir posture, though Harry suspected his godfather had made up the term. He touched the frame of the mirror, feeling Hogwarts' magic pulse in response. Show me the entrance hall, please. The mirror's surface rippled, transforming into a viewing portal showing the grand entrance to the castle. Dumbledore stood conversing with McGonagall, his purple robes embroidered with moons and stars as flamboyant as ever. Beside him was a tall, thin man with a turban wrapped around his head, looking nervous and slightly twitchy. Harry frowned. Something about the turban man felt wrong. The castle's unease filtered through their connection, a sense of duplicity, of hidden danger. Before he could analyze this further, the study door opened as Neville and Susan entered, followed by Sirius and Remus. Who's the jumpy bloke with Dumbledore? Sirius asked, glancing at the mirror. Not sure, Harry replied. But Hogwarts doesn't like him. Or, it's confused about him. Like he's 2 people somehow. 2 people. Remus moved closer to the mirror. That's Quirinus Quirrell. He taught Muggle studies a few years ago, then took a sabbatical to gain field experience. Dumbledore mentioned he might return as defense against the dark arts professor when the school year begins. That explains why Hogwarts recognizes him, Harry said, but not the 2 people feeling. Maybe he's possessed, Susan suggested casually, earning startled looks from the adults. She shrugged. What? My aunt deals with dark magic cases all the time. Possession isn't common, but it happens. Out of the mouths of babes, came a voice from the doorway. They turned to find Augusta Longbottom entering with Amelia Bones. Possessed or not, Dumbledore should know better than to bring unknown entities into the castle without clearing it with the board first. Especially given his provisional status, Amelia agreed, nodding greeting to her niece. I came early when I heard he'd returned unexpectedly. Hogwarts alerted you? Sirius asked. Amelia smiled slightly. Not exactly. I have my sources. Now, I believe we should go meet our visitors before the minister arrives. Harry, would you like to accompany us? Harry nodded. As Hogwarts heir, he'd gradually taken on more ceremonial responsibilities. Initially he'd resisted, he was a kid, after all, but he'd discovered that being present for important meetings gave him valuable information and influence. Susan, Neville, would you like to join the other children in the garden? Remus suggested. Hannah and Ernie arrived earlier for your herbology project. We'd rather stay with Harry, Neville said firmly, standing straighter. The timid boy of a year ago had blossomed into a quietly determined young wizard. His ongoing work with the Founders had confirmed his status as Hufflepuff's heir, and while his transformation was less dramatic than Harry's, it was no less significant. Very well, Augusta nodded approvingly at her grandson's backbone. But observe only unless directly addressed. The group made their way through the castle toward the entrance hall. As they walked, Harry noticed subtle changes in the ancient building, changes that visitors might not see but that had been occurring gradually all year. The stone walls seemed to shimmer with renewed vitality, portraits appeared more animated, and the very air hummed with awakening magic. Hogwarts was coming alive again, responding to the presence of not one but two confirmed heirs within its walls. They found Dumbledore and his companion waiting in the entrance hall, McGonagall standing at a careful distance. The former headmaster's eyes twinkled as brightly as ever behind his half-moon spectacles, but Harry had learned to look beyond that grandfatherly facade to the calculating intelligence beneath. Ah, Harry my boy. Dumbledore called genially. How wonderful to see you looking so well. And young Neville and Miss Bones too. Delightful. Professor Dumbledore, Harry acknowledged with a small nod, respectful but not deferential. Their relationship had evolved into something complicated over the past year. After the initial shock of the Sorting Hat's declaration and the revelations about Harry's placement with the Dursleys, Dumbledore had faced serious consequences. But as the months passed and emotions cooled, a reluctant pragmatism had developed between them. I hope you'll forgive my unscheduled visit, Dumbledore continued. I've brought Professor Quirrell to see the castle before term begins. Quirinus, may I present Harry Potter, Hogwarts heir. The turbaned man gave a nervous smile and extended a slightly trembling hand. P.P. Potter. An honor to meet you. The moment their hands touched, searing pain shot through Harry's scar. He jerked back, his free hand flying to his forehead. Harry. Sirius moved instantly to his side. The castle's magic surged protectively around Harry, stones trembling slightly underfoot. Quirrell stepped back, his face showing alarm, and something else, something calculating that vanished so quickly Harry almost missed it. I'm fine, Harry managed, though the pain lingered. Just a headache. Dumbledore was watching this interaction with intense interest. Fascinating, he murmured. Most fascinating. What exactly is fascinating about my godson experiencing pain, Dumbledore? Sirius demanded. Before the former headmaster could respond, the great doors swung open to admit Minister Cornelius Fudge, flanked by Percy Weasley carrying a stack of parchment and looking important. Ah! Everyone's here already. Fudge boomed, beaming around the hall. Harry M. boy. Looking splendid, splendid. And Dumbledore too, excellent. I've been hoping to speak with you both. The political tension in the entrance hall thickened instantly. Fudge had spent the past year delicately balancing between various factions, supporting the reforms at Hogwarts while maintaining relations with wealthy purebloods like Malfoy, publicly praising Harry while privately working to limit his influence. Minister, Harry greeted him politely. Welcome to Hogwarts. Yes, thank you. Fudge pumped Harry's hand enthusiastically, his eyes sliding to where a Daily Prophet photographer lingered in the doorway. I've come to personally review your educational progress. The ministry takes a keen interest in ensuring the boy who lived receives the finest magical education possible. Harry's education follows a carefully developed program approved by the Board of Governors, Amelia said coolly. As we've documented in our quarterly reports to your office. Of course, of course. Fudge's smile never faltered. Just doing my due diligence. Perhaps we could move this discussion somewhere more comfortable. The Great Hall has been prepared, McGonagall informed them. As they moved toward the Great Hall, Harry fell into step beside Dumbledore, deliberately putting distance between himself and Quirrell. My scar reacted to him, Harry said quietly. Why? Dumbledore glanced down, genuine concern flickering across his features. I have theories, Harry. Perhaps we might discuss them after the minister's visit. Harry studied the old wizard's face, searching for deception. Their relationship had evolved into a careful dance. Dumbledore no longer attempted to control Harry's life, and in return, Harry listened to his advice and experience when freely offered. All right, Harry agreed. My study, after they leave. Dumbledore nodded, a shadow of his former twinkle returning. I have information I believe you should have. Information about Voldemort. Harry's eyes widened slightly, but he maintained his composure as they entered the Great Hall, where tables had been arranged in a formal configuration for the meeting. The minister immediately claimed the seat beside Harry, launching into a speech about the ministry's commitment to educational excellence while Percy Weasley took elaborate notes and the photographer captured multiple angles. Throughout the tedious meeting that followed, Harry divided his attention between the political maneuvering around him and the disturbing presence of Professor Quirrell, who sat silently at the far end of the table. Hogwarts unease flowed through their connection, heightening Harry's own suspicions. Something was very wrong with Quirinus Quirrell. And somehow, Harry knew it was connected to Voldemort. 2 hours later, after the minister had finally departed with his entourage, Harry returned to his study to find Dumbledore already waiting, examining one of the ancient maps on the wall with interest. Remarkable, the former headmaster murmured. This shows magical ley lines I didn't know existed beneath the castle. Hogwarts revealed it to me last month, Harry explained, closing the door behind him. The founders built the castle at the intersection of 7 major magical conduits. The number 7 again, Dumbledore nodded thoughtfully. Most powerfully magical number. Harry took his seat at the round table, gesturing for Dumbledore to join him. You wanted to talk about Voldemort. Does it have something to do with Professor Quirrell? Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. Your perception continues to impress, Harry. Yes, it does. He settled into a chair with a sigh. What I'm about to tell you is not widely known. In fact, I've spent years gathering this information, much of it uncertain or incomplete. Harry leaned forward. Despite his complicated feelings toward Dumbledore, he recognized the old wizard's vast knowledge and experience. I'm listening. Lord Voldemort did not truly die the night he attacked you and your parents, Dumbledore began. The killing curse rebounded, destroying his body, but his spirit, his essence, survived. Because of the soul magic Ravenclaw identified, Harry said, not phrasing it as a question. Dumbledore looked momentarily startled. The founders told you about this? They recognized the fragment in my scar, Harry explained. Slytherin called it a Horcrux. Did he indeed? Dumbledore's expression was unreadable. The founders' knowledge exceeds even my research in some areas. Slytherin said it was the darkest of magics, splitting one's soul through murder to anchor oneself to the living world. Harry unconsciously touched his scar. The castle's magic has been containing it, preventing it from influencing me. Remarkable, Dumbledore murmured again. I spent years researching what might have happened that night, and you've known for months. Harry shrugged. I didn't know it was a Horcrux specifically until recently. Just that there was dark magic connected to Voldemort in my scar. And Hogwarts itself has been containing it? Dumbledore pressed. How? The founders created a modified containment ward. It's tied to the castle's core magic. Harry didn't mention that the ward extended beyond Hogwarts now, protecting him even when he visited Sirius's nearby home in Hogsmeade or traveled elsewhere. Some information remained private. I see. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. Then you already understand part of what I came to tell you. Voldemort exists in a wraith-like state, neither truly alive nor dead. He has been seeking ways to return to physical form. And you think he's possessed Quirrell, Harry stated flatly. Dumbledore nodded gravely. I suspected something was wrong when Quirinus returned from his sabbatical dramatically changed. His stutter, his nervous demeanor, these are new. The magical disturbance you felt, combined with your scar's reaction, confirms my suspicions. Why bring him to Hogwarts then? Harry demanded, a flash of anger rising. You're putting everyone in danger. I needed to confirm my theory, Dumbledore replied calmly. And I believed, correctly, that Hogwarts would recognize the threat immediately through you. Better to confront Voldemort here, where the castle's ancient protections exist, than allow him to operate freely elsewhere. Harry couldn't argue with the logic, though the casual use of himself as bait rankled. So what now? Now we prepare. If Voldemort is indeed possessing Quirrell, his primary goal will be to regain a body of his own. Dumbledore hesitated, then continued. There is something else you should know. The Philosopher's Stone, which was hidden here last year before being returned to Nicholas Flamel, creates the elixir of life. It could have given Voldemort a new body. That's why he tried to steal it, Harry realized. That wasn't just any intruder last year, it was Voldemort. Most likely working through another agent then, as he is with Quirrell now. Dumbledore leaned forward. Harry, I've spent the past year researching Horcruxes extensively. I believe Voldemort created more than one. This was new information. Harry felt a chill. More than one. How many? I cannot be certain, Dumbledore admitted. At least 3, possibly more. I've been tracking them, trying to locate and destroy them. Because as long as they exist, he can't truly die, Harry concluded. That's why he didn't die when the killing curse rebounded. Precisely. Dumbledore looked impressed despite himself. You understand quickly. The founders have been educating me about soul magic, Harry explained. Trying to find a way to remove the fragment from my scar without harming me. And have they found one? Dumbledore asked, unable to hide his intense interest. Not yet, Harry admitted. But they're close. Slytherin thinks the Chamber of Secrets might contain information that could help. The Chamber of Secrets? Dumbledore straightened. You know of its existence? Harry nodded. Slytherin confirmed it exists, though he hasn't told me how to access it yet. Says I need to be ready for what's inside. Fascinating, Dumbledore murmured for the third time. The combined knowledge of the founders, it exceeds anything available in modern magical research. They built Hogwarts, Harry said simply. They understand its magic better than anyone. Indeed. Dumbledore rose, adjusting his robes. Harry, I propose an alliance of sorts. I will share everything I learn about Voldemort and his Horcruxes. In return, I ask that you consider sharing the Founders' insights about soul magic. Together, we might find solutions neither could discover alone. Harry considered the offer. Despite their complicated history, Dumbledore's knowledge of Voldemort was unmatched. And unlike last year, the former headmaster wasn't attempting to control the situation, he was offering collaboration. I'll discuss it with Sirius and the Founders, Harry replied. But tentatively, yes. Dumbledore nodded, looking satisfied. That's all I can ask. Now, regarding Professor Quirrell, Hogwarts will monitor him, Harry stated firmly. The castle can track his movements and alert me to any suspicious activity. Excellent. I will do the same from my position. Together, we can ensure he doesn't harm anyone while we determine exactly what Voldemort is planning. As Dumbledore departed, Harry remained seated at the round table, processing everything he'd learned. After a moment, he placed his palm flat on the table's surface. "Did you get all that?" he asked aloud. The table's wood grain shifted subtly beneath his hand, forming momentary patterns before settling again, Hogwarts acknowledging his question. "Keep special watch on Quirrell. Alert me if he goes anywhere near the 3rd floor or tries to harm anyone." The castle's magic pulsed in agreement. Harry smiled slightly. Having an entire sentient magical building as an ally had its advantages. Now he needed to speak with the founders about the Chamber of Secrets. If it contained information about soul magic that could help remove Voldemort's Horcrux from his scar, finding it had just become urgent. Absolutely not. Sirius paced the founder's study, his expression thunderous. "You're not going looking for Salazar Slytherin's legendary monster chamber at 8 years old, Harry." 9 in 2 weeks, Harry corrected automatically. "And I'm not suggesting I go alone. But the chamber might contain information about Horcruxes that could help us." "The boy is right," Slytherin's portrait stated calmly. "My private chambers beneath the school contain texts on soul magic not found anywhere else in the wizarding world. Soul magic that helped create Horcruxes in the first place." Sirius countered. "Forgive me if I'm not eager to expose Harry to even more dark magic." Rowena Ravenclaw cleared her throat from her portrait. "Not all soul magic is dark, Mr. Black. The same principles that allow Horcrux creation can be reversed for Horcrux destruction or containment." "Still," Hufflepuff interjected, "Sirius raises valid concerns. The chamber contains more than just books, after all." Harry looked up sharply. "What does that mean? What else is down there?" The 4 founders exchanged glances before Gryffindor answered. "A basilisk. My old friend Salazar left his familiar to guard the chamber." "A basilisk?" Sirius roared. "A giant snake that kills with its gaze. And you were going to let Harry go down there?" "The basilisk responds to Parseltongue commands," Slytherin explained with dignity. "As Harry has demonstrated limited Parseltongue ability through his scar connection, he would be able to control it." Limited being the key word there. Sirius threw up his hands in exasperation. What if it doesn't listen? What if the fragment in Harry's scar isn't enough? "I must agree with Sirius," came Remus's calm voice from the doorway. He entered the study holding a stack of ancient-looking scrolls. "The risk seems disproportionate to the potential reward." "Not if the reward is removing Voldemort's soul from Harry's head," Harry pointed out reasonably. "There must be another way," Remus insisted, setting the scrolls on a table. "I've been researching soul magic independently. These texts from Alexandria suggest containment rituals that might." He was interrupted by a soft chime that echoed through the room, Hogwarts alert system that Harry had established for important visitors. "Someone's at the main gate," Harry said, closing his eyes briefly to connect with the castle's awareness. "It's Lucius Malfoy and his son. They're requesting entrance for official Board of Governors business." Sirius groaned. "Perfect timing as always. We'll continue this discussion later." He pointed firmly at Harry. "No chamber exploring without adult supervision. Promise me." "I promise," Harry agreed easily. A little too easily, Sirius thought with suspicion. "I mean it, Harry. Not even with Neville or Susan. I promised, didn't I?" Harry stood, straightening his robes. "Should I come meet Malfoy with you?" "Might as well," Sirius sighed. "He's probably here to see you anyway. Some new scheme to increase his influence." As they headed toward the entrance hall, Remus fell into step beside Harry. "You know why Sirius is so protective, right?" he asked quietly. Harry nodded. "Because he loves me and doesn't want me in danger." "Yes, but it's more than that. He lost everyone he loved once before, your parents, his friends, his freedom. Having you in his life gave him a second chance he never thought he'd get. Remus squeezed Harry's shoulder gently. When he seems overprotective, remember it comes from that place. I know, Harry said softly. And I'm not actually planning to go into the chamber without help. I just want to find it first. Remus smiled slightly. That's a very carefully worded statement that still manages to worry me. Harry grinned back, unrepentant. That was the thing about growing up with a magical prankster for a godfather, you learn the importance of precise language. They reached the entrance hall to find McGonagall already greeting Lucius Malfoy, whose cold eyes surveyed the castle with barely concealed calculation. Beside him stood Draco, looking bored yet somehow haughty simultaneously, a miniature version of his father down to the carefully styled blonde hair. "Ah, Mr. Potter," Malfoy said silkily as Harry approached. "How gracious of you to greet us personally." "Mr. Malfoy," Harry nodded politely. "Draco. Welcome to Hogwarts." "Heir Potter," Draco returned with careful formality. Their relationship had evolved into something strange over the past year, not friendship exactly, but a wary mutual assessment. Draco clearly remained torn between his father's political positions and his own curiosity about Harry's unique status and growing magical abilities. "Lucius has brought school supplies for review," McGonagall explained, her tone making it clear she found this excuse transparent. "As well as a donation to the library." "How generous," Sirius commented, not bothering to hide his skepticism. Malfoy smiled thinly. "The Board of Governors maintains its commitment to educational excellence, regardless of administrative changes." He gestured to a house elf struggling with a box of books. "These rare volumes should make a valuable addition to Hogwarts' collection." Harry felt a sudden chill, not from Malfoy's words, but from Hogwarts itself. The castle's magic rippled with warning around him, focusing his attention on the box of books. Something there felt wrong. Dark. "I'd be happy to help review the donation," Harry offered smoothly. "Perhaps Draco could show me what his father has brought while you adults discuss board matters." Malfoy looked momentarily wrong-footed by this suggestion but recovered quickly. "An excellent idea. Draco, accompany Mr. Potter to the library with the donations." As the adults moved toward McGonagall's office, Harry led Draco and the house elf toward the library. Once out of earshot, Draco's formal demeanor relaxed slightly. "Father's been planning this visit for weeks," he confided, lowering his voice. "Says it's important to maintain a presence at Hogwarts given the changing political landscape." "Is that what he calls it?" Harry asked mildly. Draco shot him a sharp look. "Father says your influence is growing too quickly. That people are forgetting you're just a child." "I don't feel like just a child most days," Harry admitted. "Not with everything that's happened." Something like genuine curiosity crossed Draco's face. "Is it true the castle actually talks to you? Pansy Parkinson's father says you can make Hogwarts do whatever you want." Harry shook his head. "It's not like that. Hogwarts doesn't exactly talk, and I don't control it. We cooperate." "Sounds convenient," Draco remarked, a hint of envy in his voice. They reached the library, where Madame Pants scrutinized the donated books with professional suspicion. As she catalogued each volume, Harry monitored Hogwarts' reactions. Most of the books generated no response, expensive but innocuous texts on magical theory and history. But one small, black diary triggered an immediate warning surge through his connection to the castle. Harry kept his expression neutral while maneuvering closer to the diary. Plain and unassuming, it looked harmless enough, but the castle's magic recoiled from it violently. Worse, Harry's scar began to prickle uncomfortably the closer he got to it. "What's this one?" he asked casually, pointing to the diary. Draco shrugged. "Just some old blank journal father found in his study. Said students might find it useful." A blank journal that made his scar hurt and sent Hogwarts into a defensive fit? Harry doubted that very much. "Madame Pants," he said carefully, "would you mind if I borrowed this one briefly?" I've been looking for a new journal. The librarian hesitated, then nodded. As Hogwarts Heir, you have borrowing privileges for any materials, Mr. Potter. Just sign the registry. Harry quickly signed for the diary and slipped it into his pocket before Draco could object. Shall we rejoin the others? I'm sure your father will be finishing soon. As they walked back toward the entrance hall, Harry felt the diary's dark presence in his pocket like a cold weight. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't just a blank journal. And Lucius Malfoy had deliberately brought it into Hogwarts, into a school full of children. The question was why. Later that evening, after the Malfoys had departed and Sirius had been called away to an emergency Wisengamot session, Harry sat alone in his private quarters examining the diary. He'd considered showing it to Remus or McGonagall immediately, but something held him back. The diary's connection to his scar suggested it might be related to Voldemort, and after his conversation with Dumbledore earlier, Harry wanted to understand what he was dealing with first. "What are you?" he murmured, turning the small book over in his hands. The diary looked perfectly ordinary, black leather cover, slightly yellowed pages, all completely blank except for the name, T.M. Riddle, printed on the first page. Yet Hogwarts magic continued to pulse warningly around it, and Harry's scar throbbed faintly whenever he held it too close. On impulse, Harry took a quill and opened the diary to the first blank page. "Let's see what happens if I write in you." He hesitated only briefly before writing, "My name is Harry Potter." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the ink sank into the page and disappeared. Harry jerked back slightly, but curiosity kept him watching as new words formed in a handwriting different from his own. "Hello, Harry Potter. My name is Tom Riddle. How did you come by my diary?" Harry stared at the words, mind racing. Tom Riddle. The name triggered a memory, something Dumbledore had mentioned once about Voldemort's birth name. "Lucius Malfoy donated you to Hogwarts," Harry wrote cautiously. "Did he? How interesting. And who are you, Harry Potter? A student at Hogwarts?" Harry considered his response carefully. If this diary was connected to Voldemort somehow, revealing too much could be dangerous. Yet it might also be an opportunity to gather information. "I'm Hogwarts Heir," he wrote finally, deciding on a truth that would establish his position without revealing his age. The diary took longer to respond this time, as if surprised or calculating. "Hogwarts Heir. That's quite a claim. What house are you in?" "I haven't been sorted yet," Harry replied truthfully. "But the sorting hat declared me Gryffindor's heir by blood." "Fascinating. I was once told I was Slytherin's heir myself. Perhaps we have something in common." Harry's suspicion solidified. This had to be connected to Voldemort. But what exactly was this diary? A communication device? A record of some kind? "What exactly are you?" Harry wrote directly. "How can a diary think and respond?" "I am a memory," came the reply. "Preserved in the pages of this diary for 50 years. I can show you things, Harry Potter. Things from the past that might interest Hogwarts Heir." Harry's instincts screamed caution, but his curiosity battled against them. A memory of the young Voldemort might contain valuable information. "Show me," he wrote. Immediately, the pages began to turn on their own, stopping at a date in June. The diary glowed with an eerie light, and Harry felt a tugging sensation, as if the book were trying to pull him in. He resisted instinctively, Hogwarts magic surging protectively around him. The diary's pull intensified, but the castle's protection held firm. After a moment, the glow subsided, and new words appeared. "You're stronger than I expected, Harry Potter. Most interesting." Harry slammed the diary shut, heart pounding. The book had tried to possess him or transport him somehow. Had Lucius Malfoy known what would happen when he donated it? Was this an attempt to harm him specifically? One thing was clear, this was no ordinary magical artifact. If Dumbledore was right about Voldemort creating multiple Horcruxes, Harry suspected he was holding one right now. He needed to consult the founders immediately. But first, he needed to contain this thing safely. Closing his eyes, Harry reached out to Hogwarts. "I need a secure container," he whispered. "Something that can hold dark magic without letting it spread." The castle's response came immediately. A section of wall near his desk slid open, revealing a small alcove containing a box made of silvery metal inscribed with ancient runes. Harry recognized it from Ravenclaw's lessons, a containment vessel designed by the founders themselves to hold dangerous magical objects. Carefully, using a cloth to avoid touching it directly, Harry placed the diary inside the box and sealed it. The runes glowed briefly before settling into a steady, pulsing pattern. "Thank you," he told the castle, feeling its magic settle around him protectively. Now he needed to understand what he was dealing with, and why Lucius Malfoy had brought it to Hogwarts. "A Horcrux," Slytherin confirmed grimly, after Harry described the diary to the founders' portraits. "There is no doubt. The symptoms you describe, combined with the diary's behavior, can only indicate a soul vessel." Harry sat back in his chair, processing this. So Malfoy just casually donated a piece of Voldemort's soul to the Hogwarts library. "Not casually," Ravenclaw corrected. "With deliberate intent. The question is whether he knew exactly what it was, or merely that it was a dark object connected to Voldemort. Either way, his purpose was clearly malicious," Gryffindor added. "Such an object, loose among students, could possess or harm them." Harry nodded slowly. "It tried to pull me in. If I hadn't had Hogwarts protection, you would likely have been transported into a memory construct controlled by the soul fragment," Hufflepuff explained. "A dangerous situation indeed. This confirms Dumbledore's theory that Voldemort created multiple Horcruxes," Harry said. "The fragment in my scar, this diary," he said. "There might be more." "The audacity," Slytherin muttered, looking genuinely disturbed. To split one's soul multiple times, the instability alone should have deterred him. "Yet it explains his wraith-like survival," Ravenclaw noted. "With multiple anchors, his essence remains bound to the physical world regardless of bodily death." Harry leaned forward. "So how do we destroy it? And could destroying it help remove the fragment from my scar?" The founders exchanged glances before Slytherin answered. "Destroying a Horcrux requires damaging its container beyond magical repair. Basilisk venom is one of the few substances capable of this. So we do need to find the chamber," Harry concluded. "It seems increasingly necessary," Gryffindor agreed reluctantly. "But not alone, Harry. The basilisk, while controllable through Parseltongue, remains extremely dangerous." "I've been practicing the Parseltongue phrases you taught me," Harry told Slytherin. "But I still can't consistently produce them without looking at an actual snake. Which is why you should not face my basilisk without support," Slytherin insisted. "However, I believe the time has come to reveal the chamber's entrance to you." Harry straightened, excitement overcoming his apprehension. "Where is it?" "The second-floor girls' lavatory," Slytherin stated matter-of-factly. "The sink with the snake carved on the faucet opens the passage when addressed in Parseltongue." Harry blinked. "The girls' bathroom? That's where you built your secret chamber?" "It wasn't a bathroom when I built it," Slytherin replied dryly. "Modern plumbing was added somewhat after my time. The entrance was originally concealed by a sliding wall panel in what was then a storage room." "Practical concerns aside," Ravenclaw interjected, "accessing the chamber requires careful preparation. You'll need protection against the basilisk's gaze, for one. And trusted allies," Hufflepuff added. "This task is too dangerous for you alone, Harry, regardless of your growing abilities." Harry nodded, already mentally formulating a plan. "I'll talk to Sirius and Remus when they return tomorrow. And Professor McGonagall should know as well." "A wise approach," Gryffindor approved. "Patience and preparation will serve you better than rash action, however tempting it may be." As Harry left the founder's study, he felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Finding the Chamber of Secrets would be a significant step toward understanding Slytherin's legacy and potentially dealing with the Horcrux in his scar. But it also meant confronting a basilisk, a creature so deadly even looking into its eyes meant death. So much for a normal childhood, he thought ruefully. Then again, nothing had been normal since the moment the Sorting Hat declared him Hogwarts Heir. Harry's plans for a carefully managed expedition to the Chamber of Secrets were derailed the following morning when Neville burst into his quarters, breathless and wide-eyed. "Harry! The diary, it's gone." Harry shot to his feet. "What? How?" "It was in the containment box." "I don't know," Neville panted, clearly having run all the way. "Susan and I came to show you the new herbology project. Your door was open, and we noticed the box on your desk was open too. The diary's gone." Harry rushed to his desk, finding the silver containment box empty, its lid ajar. Hogwarts magic surged around him, sharing his alarm. "This doesn't make sense," Harry muttered. "The box was sealed with founder magic. And Hogwarts would have alerted me if someone entered my quarters without permission." "Unless they already had permission," came Susan's voice from the doorway. She entered, her expression unusually serious. "Someone who can come and go freely in the heir's quarters." Harry's mind raced. Only a handful of people had that level of access: Sirius, Remus, McGonagall, Neville, Susan herself, and the house elves who maintained the rooms. "Dobby!" Harry called suddenly, remembering the Malfoys' house elf who had brought the box of books. Nothing happened. "He wouldn't answer you," Susan pointed out. "He's bound to the Malfoys." But he could have come back for the diary under orders, Harry realized. House elf magic can bypass many wizard security measures. Neville frowned. "But why take it now? Why not just keep it hidden among the other books yesterday?" "Because I separated it from the donation," Harry said, thinking aloud. "Malfoy must have realized I'd identified it as dangerous. Sending his elf to retrieve it was damage control." Or, Susan suggested grimly, "the diary is already doing what it was brought here to do." Harry and Neville stared at her. "What do you mean?" Neville asked. "Think about it. A dark magical object that can possess people, planted in a school full of children. What if someone found it after it was taken from your desk? What if they're writing in it right now?" A chill ran down Harry's spine. "We need to find it. Fast." Harry closed his eyes, focusing on his connection with Hogwarts. "Can you sense the diary anywhere in the castle?" he asked silently. The response came as a series of impressions, confusion, then a vague directional pull toward the lower floors. The castle could sense the dark magic but couldn't precisely locate it. Something was interfering with its awareness. "Hogwarts can sense it generally but not specifically," Harry reported, opening his eyes. "It's somewhere in the lower parts of the castle." "We should tell Professor McGonagall," Neville suggested. "And Sirius and Remus, except they're still at the Ministry," Harry added. "But we can't wait. If someone's being possessed by that diary right now." "We search ourselves," Susan decided firmly. "The three of us can cover more ground than the professors alone, and we can alert the adults simultaneously." Harry nodded, already moving toward a cabinet where he kept specialized magical devices the founders had helped him create. He withdrew 3 small golden coins connected by a complex charm. "Communication tokens," he explained, handing one to each of his friends. "Squeeze it and think of a message, we'll all receive it. If anyone finds something suspicious, alert the others immediately but don't approach alone." Armed with their tokens and wands, the 3 split up to search different areas of the castle. Harry took the second floor, including the bathroom Slytherin had identified as the chamber's entrance. As he approached it, his scar began to tingle, not painfully, but enough to notice. The bathroom appeared empty when he entered, the row of sinks standing against one wall just as Slytherin had described. Harry quickly located the sink with the tiny snake etched into one of the copper taps. "Hello?" he called, checking for occupants. Anyone in here? Silence answered him. Harry moved closer to the snake-marked sink, examining it carefully. This was the entrance to Salazar Slytherin's legendary Chamber of Secrets, hidden in plain sight for centuries, accessible only to those who spoke Parseltongue. Before he could attempt to open it, his communication token warmed in his pocket. Harry pulled it out to find Neville's message forming on its surface: first floor, east corridor. Found something strange. Water everywhere. Harry frowned. Water? He squeezed his own token, replying, "On my way. Don't go alone." As he turned to leave, he noticed something written on one of the bathroom mirrors, letters that appeared to be drawn in some dark red substance. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the heir beware." Harry's blood ran cold. Someone had not only taken the diary but had already used it to access the chamber. Which meant the basilisk might already be loose in the castle. He ran from the bathroom toward the first floor, his token warming again with Susan's message, joining Neville. Saw something moving in the water. By the time Harry reached the east corridor of the first floor, he found both his friends standing before an enormous puddle that stretched the length of the hallway. The water reflected the torchlight eerily, creating shifting patterns on the stone walls. "Harry!" Neville called with relief. "Look at this. It's coming from under that door." He pointed to a side door that Harry recognized as another, rarely used bathroom. Water was indeed seeping from beneath it. "Be careful," Harry warned, drawing his wand. "I found a message about the chamber being opened. If the diary's controlling someone, they might have released the basilisk." "The giant snake that kills with its eyes?" Susan asked, her voice steady despite the alarming news. "Shouldn't we call for help now?" "Yes," Harry agreed, raising his token to send an emergency alert to McGonagall. Before he could activate it, however, the bathroom door burst open. Water gushed out in a small flood, and with it came a ghostly figure, a pale, transparent girl with thick glasses and a sullen expression. Moaning Myrtle. Neville identified the ghost with surprise. "Oh, it's you," the ghost girl said, focusing on Harry. "You look like him, you know. The boy who was just here. Except for the eyes." "What boy?" Harry asked urgently. "The one who spoke to the sink in strange hissing sounds," Myrtle explained, floating closer. "He told me to go away, that a great purging was about to begin." "Quite rude, really." "When, Myrtle?" Harry pressed. "When did this happen?" "Just now," the ghost sniffed. "That's why I flooded everything. I was upset." Harry turned to his friends. "The entrance is in the second-floor bathroom. Someone's opened it recently. We need to alert McGonagall immediately." Susan was already activating her token, sending the emergency signal. "Done. She's on her way with Professor Flitwick." "We should wait for them," Neville suggested, looking worried. Harry shook his head. "If the basilisk is loose in the castle, every minute counts. I have to try to stop it." He paused, looking at his friends seriously. "You two should stay here to guide the professors." "We're coming with you," Susan stated firmly, her expression brooking no argument. "It's too dangerous," Harry protested. "The basilisk is exactly why you need us," Neville interrupted with uncharacteristic force. "I've been reading about basilisks since Slytherin mentioned it. Their gaze kills, yes, but their reflection only petrifies. We can create reflecting shields, watch around corners using mirrors. And 3 wands are better than 1, Susan added. Besides, if you're Gryffindor's heir and Neville is Hufflepuff's, I might well be Ravenclaw's for all we know. The castle's been responding to me too lately." Harry hesitated, torn between protecting his friends and acknowledging their right to help. In the past year, they had trained together, studied together, faced challenges together. They were becoming a team, perhaps the team the prophecy had foretold. "All right," he decided. "But we use every precaution. No direct eye contact with anything that might be the basilisk. We move together, and if I give the order to retreat, no arguments. They nodded solemnly, and Harry transfigured 3 hand mirrors from nearby debris, a skill Minerva had personally taught him over the past year. Each taking a mirror, they proceeded cautiously toward the second-floor bathroom. The bathroom looked different when Harry returned with Neville and Susan. The sinks had reconfigured themselves, revealing a dark pipe large enough for a person to slide down, the entrance to the chamber, already opened. "Someone's definitely down there," Harry said, peering cautiously into the darkness. "The question is who, and whether they're being controlled by the diary. And whether they've already released the basilisk," Susan added grimly. Harry nodded, then closed his eyes to commune with Hogwarts. The castle's awareness extended even into this hidden chamber, though it felt distant and strained, as if something was interfering with the connection. "Hogwarts can sense activity below but can't give me details," Harry reported. "The chamber has its own magic that partially blocks the castle's awareness." "How do we get down?" Neville asked practically, eyeing the steep, slippery-looking pipe. Harry remembered Slytherin's instructions. There should be stairs, activated by a different Parseltongue command. He focused on the mental image of a snake and hissed, "Stairs." The pipe rumbled and transformed, stone steps emerging from its sides to form a spiral staircase descending into darkness. "That's handy," Susan remarked, lighting her wand with a whispered "Lumos." Harry led the way, his own wand held high, mirror at the ready to check around corners. The staircase seemed to descend forever, curving deep beneath the school until they finally reached a stone tunnel large enough to stand in. "Be ready for anything," Harry whispered as they began moving forward. "Use the mirrors first, eyes second." The tunnel stretched ahead, its floor littered with small animal bones that crunched beneath their feet. After several minutes of careful progress, they encountered their first obstacle, an enormous snake skin, shed by something at least 20 feet long. "Merlin's beard," Neville breathed, staring at the massive skin. "It's huge." "Stay focused," Harry reminded them, trying to ignore his own mounting anxiety. They continued forward until the tunnel ended at a solid wall carved with 2 entwined serpents, their eyes set with glittering emeralds. Here was the true entrance to Slytherin's inner chamber. Harry raised his mirror, checking the space beyond for any movement, then hissed, "Open." The serpents parted as the wall cracked open, revealing a long, dimly lit chamber beyond. Enormous stone pillars carved with serpents supported a ceiling lost in darkness. At the far end stood a massive statue of Salazar Slytherin himself, his stern face gazing down at a small figure standing before it. A figure Harry recognized instantly from his brief glimpse in the mirror the previous night. Tom Riddle, or rather, a semi-transparent version of him, stood beside a small, red-haired girl who lay motionless on the stone floor. The diary sat open beside her. "Harry Potter," Riddle called, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I've been hoping you'd come. The famous Hogwarts Heir." Harry signaled his friends to remain by the entrance while he cautiously moved forward, keeping his eyes on Riddle rather than scanning the chamber for the basilisk. "Who is she?" Harry demanded, gesturing to the unconscious girl. "What have you done to her?" "Ginny Weasley," Riddle replied casually. "A naive first year who poured her heart and soul into my diary for months. She found it this morning in your quarters and was immediately drawn to it. So lonely, so eager for a sympathetic friend. You're draining her life force," Harry realized, noting how Riddle became more solid as the girl, Ginny, grew paler. "To give yourself physical form." "Very good, Potter." Riddle smiled coldly. "Yes, little Ginny has been most helpful. Her life energy is allowing me to leave the diary at last. Soon I'll be fully corporeal again." Harry's mind raced. This wasn't Voldemort as he currently existed, this was a preserved memory, a piece of his teenage self before he became the Dark Lord. But no less dangerous for that. "It won't work," Harry stated, still moving slowly forward. "Hogwarts won't allow it. The castle's already fighting you." "The castle," Riddle sneered. Slytherin built this chamber specifically to operate outside Hogwarts awareness. My ancestor understood the importance of private space, free from interference. Your ancestor? Harry raised an eyebrow, playing for time as he assessed the situation. You're claiming to be Slytherin's heir? Riddle laughed. I am the heir of Slytherin, Harry Potter. I, who discovered this chamber when I was a student. I, who woke the basilisk and used it to purge the school of unworthy students. You mean you used it to murder people, Harry corrected, now close enough to see Ginny's chest barely moving with shallow breaths. Just like you're murdering her now. Murder is such an ugly word, Riddle said dismissively. I prefer to think of it as necessary sacrifice. Ginny's unremarkable life in exchange for the return of the greatest wizard who ever lived. You're not the greatest wizard, Harry stated flatly. You're just a bitter, broken piece of a madman who couldn't even kill a baby properly. Riddle's handsome face contorted with rage. You know nothing about me, Potter. I know everything about you, Tom Marvolo Riddle, Harry replied, watching satisfaction replaced by shock on the other's face. I know your birth name. I know you're a half-blood who hated his muggle father. I know you became Voldemort because you feared death above all else. How? And I know what you are, Harry continued, drawing closer to Ginny's motionless form. A Horcrux. A soul fragment stored in a diary. Not even the real Voldemort, just a broken piece he discarded. Rage transformed Riddle's face into something inhuman. Enough talk. Let's see how the mighty Hogwarts Heir fares against Slytherin's monster. Let's match the powers of Lord Voldemort, heir of Slytherin, against the famous Harry Potter. Riddle turned toward the statue of Salazar Slytherin and hissed in Parseltongue, Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four. The statue's mouth began to open, revealing a dark tunnel within. Harry immediately closed his eyes, relying on his connection with Hogwarts to sense what was happening. He could feel something massive stirring within the statue, preparing to emerge. Neville. Susan. Close your eyes. Harry shouted, then hissed in Parseltongue, drawing on Slytherin's lessons, Stop. I command you. For a moment, there was silence. Then Riddle laughed again. Nice try, Potter. But the basilisk responds only to the true heir of Slytherin. And that is me. Harry heard a heavy body hit the stone floor of the chamber, the basilisk emerging from its lair. He kept his eyes firmly shut, focusing instead on his connection to Hogwarts, trying to extend the castle's awareness into the chamber despite the magical barriers. You can't win with your eyes closed, Riddle taunted. And your friends can't help you. Soon my faithful servant will kill them, and you, and I will rise again. Harry ignored the taunt, concentrating harder on his link with Hogwarts. If he could strengthen it enough to break through the chamber's isolation. Suddenly, unexpectedly, another connection flared to life, not with the castle, but with the enormous creature now moving toward him. Harry felt a flicker of the basilisk's consciousness, ancient and powerful but also confused, conflicted. It was bound to obey the heir of Slytherin, but it sensed two such heirs in the chamber, their commands contradicting each other. Taking a desperate chance, Harry hissed again, infusing his command with all the authority he could muster, I am also Slytherin's blood. Look at me, serpent, but do not kill. He felt the basilisk hesitate, torn between contradicting orders. Riddle hissed furiously, commanding it to attack, but Harry maintained his mental pressure, offering an alternative to the ancient creature. Cautiously, Harry opened his eyes just enough to see through his lashes, keeping his gaze on the stone floor. The enormous green serpent towered before him, its deadly gaze deliberately focused above Harry's head. It had chosen to obey his command not to kill him. Impossible. Riddle snarled. Kill him. Kill him now. But Harry had established a connection with the basilisk, tenuous, fragile, but real. It was confused by the contradictory commands from two individuals it recognized as having authority over it. Taking advantage of this confusion, Harry made his move. He lunged forward toward Ginny and the diary lying beside her. Riddle realized his intent too late, screaming in fury as Harry grabbed the diary. Now he needed to destroy it, and quickly, before Riddle could reassert control over the basilisk. Slytherin had said basilisk venom could destroy a Horcrux, but he couldn't exactly ask the great serpent to bite the diary. Then Harry remembered something else from his lessons with the Founders: the basilisk's fangs were imbued with its venom. And on the chamber floor lay several shed fangs from previous molts. Accio basilisk fang! Harry shouted, wandlessly summoning one of the fangs that lay nearby. To his amazement, the fang flew into his hand instantly, his wandless magic responding with unprecedented strength in this moment of desperate need. Without hesitation, Harry plunged the fang directly into the diary. Riddle's scream was inhuman. Ink spurted from the diary like blood, flowing over Harry's hands and the stone floor. The semi-corporeal form of Tom Riddle writhed and contorted, his features melting and reforming as he fought against the destruction of his anchor. "What have you done?" he shrieked, his body beginning to fracture, light splintering through growing cracks in his form. "What have you done?" With a final, terrible scream, the memory of Tom Riddle exploded into fragments of light that dissolved into nothingness. The basilisk, freed from his commands, backed away from Harry, retreating toward its lair in evident confusion. In the sudden silence that followed, Harry heard Susan and Neville rushing toward him, calling his name. He turned to find Ginny Weasley stirring, color returning to her face as the Horcrux's drain on her life force ended. "What, where am I?" she mumbled, her eyes fluttering open. "You're safe now," Harry assured her, helping her sit up. "The diary can't hurt you anymore." Harry Potter, she recognized him, confusion giving way to horror as memories returned. "Oh no! The diary, Tom, I tried to get rid of it when I found out what it was doing, but it controlled me. Made me come down here." "It wasn't your fault," Harry said firmly. "The diary was a very dark magical object. It was designed to possess whoever wrote in it." Neville and Susan reached them, both looking shaken but determined. "The basilisk?" Neville asked tersely, keeping his eyes averted from the far end of the chamber. "It's retreating," Harry explained. "It recognized me as having Slytherin blood too. It's confused, but not attacking." "We should get out of here before it changes its mind," Susan suggested pragmatically, helping Ginny to her feet. As they began moving toward the exit, supporting the still weak Ginny between them, Harry heard a commotion from the entrance. Moments later, McGonagall, Flitwick, and Remus burst into the chamber, wands raised. "Harry!" Remus shouted, relief evident in his voice. Then he froze, catching sight of the enormous basilisk still visible as it slithered back into Slytherin's statue. "Great Merlin! It's okay!" Harry called quickly. "It's not attacking. I established a connection with it." The professors approached cautiously, Flitwick maintaining a shield charm around them while McGonagall assessed the situation with her usual efficient calm. "Miss Weasley needs medical attention," she noted. "And I believe all of you have quite a story to tell." "You have no idea," Harry agreed, suddenly feeling the aftermath of adrenaline leaving his system. "But the immediate danger is over. The diary is destroyed." McGonagall nodded briskly. "Let's get you all out of here. Mr. Potter, I assume you can seal this chamber again?" "Yes, Professor," Harry confirmed. "And I think it should remain sealed for now. The basilisk is confused but not inherently aggressive. It's been used as a weapon, but that's not its true purpose." As they made their way back through the tunnel toward the stairs, Harry glanced back at the chamber one last time. Despite the danger they'd faced, he felt an odd reluctance to leave. This place was part of Hogwarts history, Slytherin's legacy, complicated and misunderstood. He made a silent promise to return when it was safer, to properly explore the chamber's secrets. There might be valuable knowledge hidden here, knowledge that could help understand the Horcrux in his scar and perhaps find the others Dumbledore believed existed. For now, though, he had friends to look after and explanations to give. And undoubtedly, a very upset godfather to face once Sirius learned what had happened. So let me get this straight, Sirius paced the hospital wing, where Harry, Neville, and Susan sat under Madame Pomfrey's watchful eye. Ginny Weasley slept peacefully in a nearby bed, her parents having just left after an emotional reunion. You found Voldemort's diary, it was stolen from your quarters, you tracked it to the Chamber of Secrets, confronted a teenage memory of Voldemort, nearly got eaten by a basilisk, and destroyed the Horcrux with a basilisk fang. That's the summary, yes, Harry agreed. And you did all this while I was stuck in a Wisengamot budget meeting, Sirius concluded, running a hand through his hair in exasperation. If it helps, we didn't exactly plan it this way, Harry offered. We were going to wait for adults, but then the diary was stolen and someone opened the chamber. You could have been killed, Sirius said quietly, his anger giving way to the fear that underlay it. All of you. But we weren't, Susan pointed out practically. We handled it. And saved Ginny Weasley's life, Neville added. Sirius sighed deeply, looking at the three children, not really children anymore in many ways, with a mixture of pride and resignation. You did. And I'm proud of how you worked together. But next time we'll try harder to wait for backup, Harry promised, though they all knew circumstances might not allow it. The hospital wing doors opened to admit Albus Dumbledore, accompanied by Minerva McGonagall. The former headmaster's expression was grave but his eyes held that familiar twinkle as he approached the beds. I hear congratulations are in order, he said softly. And my sincere gratitude. You have accomplished something today that I have been attempting to achieve for years, the destruction of one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. You knew the diary was a Horcrux? Sirius asked sharply. I suspected, Dumbledore corrected. I had identified several objects I believe Tom Riddle might have used, but confirming their locations has proven challenging. The diary was not one I had anticipated finding at Hogwarts. Lucius Malfoy planted it, Harry explained. He hid it among books he donated to the library. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed. Did he indeed? How very incriminating. We should move this discussion somewhere more private, McGonagall suggested, glancing at Ginny's sleeping form. The implications are significant and far-reaching. They relocated to McGonagall's office, where Arthur and Molly Weasley joined them, along with Amelia Bones, who had arrived by emergency flew after hearing of the incident. The destroyed diary sat at the center of the desk, the basilisk fang still embedded in its ruined pages. This was deliberately planted to open the Chamber of Secrets, Harry summarized for everyone. Riddle, the memory preserved in the diary, said he'd used the basilisk before to purge the school of unworthy students. 50 years ago, Dumbledore nodded. A Muggle-born student died. Moaning Myrtle, in fact. Myrtle? Harry's eyes widened with realization. That's why she haunts that bathroom, it's where she died. Indeed. Tom Riddle framed another student for her death and received a special award for services to the school. Dumbledore's expression darkened with old regret. One of many instances where I failed to see what was happening before me. Water under the bridge now, Amelia said briskly. What concerns me is Lucius Malfoy's involvement. Planting a deadly magical artifact in a school is a serious criminal offense. He'll claim he didn't know what it was, Arthur Weasley said bitterly. That's always his defense. Perhaps, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled again. But if the diary could be proven to contain Tom Riddle's memory, and if that memory admitted to being Voldemort. Amelia straightened. We could finally prove Malfoy's continued allegiance to Voldemort. It would destroy his political power overnight. Precisely, Dumbledore agreed. Though we would need to carefully document the diary's properties before word reaches Lucius that it has been destroyed. I can help with that, Harry offered. The pensieve in the Founder's study could preserve my memory of Riddle's confession. The adults exchanged glances, clearly impressed by Harry's strategic thinking. An excellent suggestion, McGonagall approved. Albus, would you assist with the memory extraction? It requires delicate magical handling with one so young. As Dumbledore helped Harry prepare and extract the crucial memory, Amelia and Arthur discussed the legal implications of Malfoy's actions. The potential political fallout was enormous, not just for Lucius personally, but for the entire faction of former Death Eaters who had claimed the Imperious defense and maintained positions of influence. Once the memory was safely stored in a crystal vial, Amelia took possession of both it and the destroyed diary as evidence. The Wizengamot will convene an emergency session tomorrow, she announced. Lucius Malfoy will be summoned to answer for his actions. And the Chamber of Secrets? McGonagall asked. What are we to do about a basilisk living beneath the school? All eyes turned to Harry, who had been quietly considering this very question. I don't think the basilisk is inherently malevolent, he said carefully. It was created as a guardian, not a weapon. It responded to me as well as to Riddle, recognizing my connection to Slytherin. He hesitated, then continued more confidently. I believe I could establish a stronger connection with it, ensure it remains dormant unless genuinely needed to protect the school. That's a significant responsibility, Sirius cautioned. One suited to Hogwarts Heir, Dumbledore observed. The basilisk is as much a part of the castle's defenses as the suits of armor or the magical barriers, simply a more extreme and dangerous one. We can't kill it, Harry stated firmly. It may be the last of its kind, 1,000 years old. That would be wrong. I agree, Dumbledore nodded. Though appropriate precautions must be established. I can work with the founders on that, Harry promised. They'll know what safeguards Slytherin originally intended. As the meeting concluded and plans were made for the following day's Wizengamot session, Harry felt both exhaustion and a strange sense of accomplishment. The discovery and destruction of the diary Horcrux represented his first direct victory against Voldemort, not as an infant protected by his mother's sacrifice, but as a young wizard making conscious choices and taking decisive action. The political earthquake that followed Lucius Malfoy's public exposure shook the wizarding world to its foundations. The Wizengamot session, initially called to address the specific incident at Hogwarts, expanded into a comprehensive reassessment of the aftermath of the First Wizarding War. Harry, accompanied by Sirius and Remus, watched from the visitors' gallery as Amelia Bones presented the evidence. The memory of Riddle's confession was projected for all to see, his casual admission of being Lord Voldemort leaving no room for plausible deniability. Lucius Malfoy knowingly introduced an artifact containing the essence of he who must not be named into a school full of children, Amelia concluded, her voice ringing through the chamber. This was not an accident or an oversight. It was a deliberate attempt to revive the Dark Lord's presence and power. Malfoy's normally composed facade had cracked completely. I knew nothing of the diary's contents, he protested, grey eyes darting around the chamber, seeking allies who were rapidly distancing themselves. It was planted among my possessions, by whom? Augusta Longbottom interrupted scathingly. You know who himself, during a social call to Malfoy Manor perhaps. Nervous laughter rippled through the chamber. The tide had turned decisively against Lucius, former allies unwilling to be caught in the undertow of his disgrace. By day's end, Malfoy had been removed from the Hogwarts Board of Governors, stripped of several ministerial advisory positions, and placed under house arrest pending a full criminal investigation. More significantly, his fall triggered a chain reaction that weakened the entire pureblood faction that had dominated politics since Voldemort's disappearance. It's just the beginning, Amelia told Harry privately after the session concluded. There will be resistance, countermoves, attempts to recover lost ground. Politics is never simple or quick. But it's progress, Harry noted. The right kind of progress. Sirius ruffled Harry's hair affectionately. Look at you, talking like a seasoned political operator. James would be terrified and Lily would be taking notes. Harry grinned at that. Over the past year, stories of his parents had transformed them from abstract figures into real people in his mind, people with strengths and flaws, hopes and fears. It made missing them both easier and harder somehow. 2 days later, as the political aftershocks continued to reverberate through Wizarding Britain, Harry found himself in the Founder's study with Neville, Susan, and the newest addition to their inner circle, Luna Lovegood, a rather strange but insightful girl Ginny had introduced them to during her recovery. The Nargles around the castle have been much less disruptive lately, Luna observed dreamily, examining one of Ravenclaw's star charts with peculiar intensity. They don't like it when the stones are happy. The stones are happy? Neville repeated, exchanging amused glances with Susan. Of course they are, Luna replied, as if stating the obvious. They've been waiting for the heirs to return. Now they have 2, possibly 3. Her protuberant silvery eyes fixed on Susan. Have you tried speaking to the eagles yet? Susan blinked in surprise. The eagles? Ravenclaw's eagles, Luna clarified. The stone ones on the 7th floor. They like riddles. The Founder's portraits, who had been listening to this exchange with varying degrees of interest, suddenly focused intently on Luna. Young lady, Rowena Ravenclaw said carefully, how do you know about the stone eagles? They haven't been visible for centuries. Luna looked up vaguely. They're not invisible, just sleeping. They told me so last week when I was looking for my shoes. The castle helps me find things, you see. Harry, Neville, and Susan exchanged significant looks. Luna's odd comments often contained surprising insights, but this was something else entirely. The castle responding to her specifically. Luna, Harry asked carefully, does Hogwarts feel different to you than other places? Oh yes, she nodded serenely. It's like having a very large, very old friend who doesn't talk much but listens quite well. My mother always said I had Ravenclaw's intuition. That's why the Sorting Hat put me there, I expect. From her portrait, Rowena Ravenclaw studied Luna with growing excitement. Child, who was your mother? Pandora Lovegood, née Ollivander, Luna replied. She was a spell researcher. She died when I was 9, experimenting with a new charm. Ollivander, Ravenclaw murmured. The Wand Makers. A family of ancient lineage indeed, and one with connections to my own bloodline many generations back. Neville's eyes widened. Are you saying Luna might be the third heir? Ravenclaw's portrait smiled. It seems increasingly possible. The castle's response to her innate awareness of hidden aspects of Hogwarts. These suggest a connection beyond ordinary magical sensitivity. Luna accepted this possibility with typical equanimity. That would explain why the castle shows me secret passages. I thought it was just being friendly. Harry laughed, delighted by Luna's unique perspective. It is being friendly. That's the thing about Hogwarts, it has a personality of sorts. It chooses how and when to reveal itself. 3 heirs, Hufflepuff's portrait said wonderingly. Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and possibly Ravenclaw. Only Slytherins remains to be identified. And we have some time before we need to worry about that, Harry pointed out. According to the prophecy, the 4 heirs return when Hogwarts faces its darkest hour. The fact that we're finding each other gradually suggests that danger is approaching but not yet imminent. Always the optimist, Potter, came a drawling voice from the doorway. Draco Malfoy stood there, looking decidedly less polished than usual. The past week had clearly taken its toll, his normally immaculate hair was slightly disheveled, his expression drawn and tense. Malfoy, Harry acknowledged, surprised to see him. How did you get in here? The study usually only admits those I've invited. That's what I'd like to know, Draco replied, looking equally confused. I was just walking past, thinking about recent events, when the wall opened. The castle practically pulled me inside. The Founders exchanged significant glances, a silent communication passing between their portraits. Interesting, Slytherin said finally. Most interesting indeed. Draco shifted uncomfortably under the scrutiny of the Founders' portraits. My father's been arrested, he said abruptly. They raided our home yesterday. Mother's beside herself. I'm sorry, Harry said, and meant it. Whatever his feelings about Lucius Malfoy, he understood all too well what it meant to suffer for the actions of adults. "Are you?" Draco challenged, but without his usual venom. "Your testimony helped put him there." "I testified about the diary and what it did," Harry corrected. "Your father made his own choices." Draco looked away, unable to dispute this. "Everything's changing," he said quietly. "The alliances, the politics, my family's position, it's all falling apart." "Not falling apart," Harry suggested. "Realigning. There's a difference." Draco's pale eyes met Harry's, searching for mockery and finding none. "What happens now?" "That depends on you," Harry replied honestly. "On the choices you make going forward." A heavy silence fell over the study as Draco considered this. The tension was broken by Luna, who approached the confused Slytherin with her characteristic dreaminess. "The castle invited you here for a reason," she said, studying him as if he were a particularly interesting magical creature. "Perhaps because you're at a crossroads. Or perhaps," Slytherin's portrait interjected, "because of something else entirely." His painted eyes examined Draco with unsettling intensity. "Tell me, young Malfoy, what do you know of your mother's family?" "The Blacks?" Draco frowned. "They're one of the Sacred 28. Ancient bloodline, connected to most pureblood families through marriage. And before they were Blacks?" Slytherin pressed. "What was their name in the founder's time?" "I don't know," Draco admitted, looking confused. "Lestrange," Slytherin supplied. Which was itself an anglicization of Lestrange. "My daughter married into that family 900 years ago." A shocked silence fell over the study. "Are you saying Draco might be?" Neville couldn't even finish the question. "Slytherin's heir through the maternal line?" Slytherin's portrait smiled thinly. "It seems increasingly possible. The castle clearly recognizes something in his blood, to admit him here unprompted." Draco looked stunned. "But the Dark Lord, he always claimed to be Slytherin's heir." "Tom Riddle was indeed my descendant through the Gaunt family," Slytherin acknowledged. "But bloodlines branch over centuries. There can be multiple descendants with varying degrees of connection. And the castle chooses which it recognizes," Harry added, beginning to understand. "It's not just about blood, it's about potential and purpose." Draco looked around at the group, at Harry Potter, his supposed enemy, at Neville Longbottom, whom he dismissed as nearly a squib, at Susan Bones, whose aunt was prosecuting his father, at Luna Lovegood, whom he barely knew except by odd reputation. These were the other heirs? And he might be the fourth? "This is insane," he muttered. "My father would," he stopped abruptly, reality reasserting itself. His father wouldn't be doing anything. His father was facing years in Azkaban. "Your father made his choices," Harry repeated quietly. "Now you get to make yours." Draco straightened, something of his old pride reasserting itself. "And if I choose not to be part of whatever this is? Your little heir club? Then you walk away," Harry shrugged. "The castle invited you here. It didn't drag you in chains." For a long moment, Draco seemed to wrestle with conflicting impulses, the weight of family expectations versus the undeniable pull of something new. Finally, he spoke. "I want to know more," he said carefully. "About what being an heir might mean. About what's really happening. Not my father's version, not the prophet's version. The truth." Harry extended his hand. "Welcome to the conversation, then." After a moment's hesitation, Draco took it. 1 month later, Harry stood atop the astronomy tower, watching the summer sunset paint Hogwarts grounds in gold and crimson. Beside him, Sirius leaned against the battlements, his expression contemplative. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Sirius remarked. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday we were bringing you here from Privet Drive. Other times it feels like you've always been here." "I feel that way too," Harry admitted. "Like Hogwarts was waiting for me. For all of us." The past month had brought remarkable changes. With Lucius Malfoy and several other former Death Eaters facing prosecution, the political landscape had shifted dramatically. Amelia Bones was now openly discussed as the next Minister of Magic, while the Hogwarts Board of Governors had been restructured to include broader representation. More personally, Harry's inner circle had expanded and evolved. Draco Malfoy's tentative inclusion had initially created tension, particularly with Neville, but the dynamic was settling into something productive if not yet comfortable. Luna's confirmation as Ravenclaw's heir had surprised no one after her intuitive connection to the castle became apparent. Susan's role remained important whether or not she was officially a founder's descendant, her practical nature and political connections through her aunt providing balance to the group. The castle's changing, Harry observed, gesturing toward the grounds below. It wasn't just his perception, Hogwarts was physically transforming. Towers that had been damaged or dormant for centuries were rebuilding themselves. Gardens long overgrown were flourishing again under Neville's guidance. The very stones seemed to shine with renewed vitality. Preparing for something, Sirius agreed. The prophecy the founders mentioned. For heirs returning when Hogwarts faces its darkest hour, Harry recited. We've identified all four now, in theory at least. Which suggests the darkness is approaching, Sirius concluded. Voldemort. Harry nodded, unconsciously touching his scar. The Horcrux fragment remained contained by the Founder's magic, but they were no closer to removing it permanently. The destruction of the diary had proven Horcruxes could be eliminated, but not how to separate one from a living host without harm. We'll figure it out, Harry, Sirius assured him, correctly interpreting his godson's gesture. Between the Founder's knowledge, Dumbledore's research, and the combined resources we've assembled, we'll find a way. Harry smiled at his godfather's unwavering support. I know we will. And in the meantime, we prepare. Preparation had become the watchword of their efforts, academically, magically, politically. Harry and his friends continued their specialized education, now enhanced by their growing connection to Hogwarts itself. The castle revealed secrets long forgotten, teaching the young heirs as the founders themselves once taught their first students. Oh, I nearly forgot, Sirius said suddenly. Remus found something interesting in the Black family library. He withdrew a small, ancient-looking book from his robes. It mentions a ritual for cleansing objects possessed by dark spirits. Might be relevant to your situation. Harry accepted the book carefully. I'll show it to the founders. They've been exploring similar avenues. And Dumbledore sent an owl, Sirius continued. He believes he's located another Horcrux, a ring belonging to the Gaunt family. Harry's eyes widened. Really? Where? Some old shack near Little Hangleton. He's going to investigate next week and wanted to know if you'd be interested in reviewing his findings afterward. Sirius's expression made it clear what he thought of Harry getting anywhere near another Horcrux. Just the findings, Harry promised. I won't go hunting Horcruxes without proper backup again. Sirius grinned. Good answer. Now come on, it's nearly time for your birthday dinner. 9 years old, practically ancient. Harry laughed and followed his godfather back into the castle, feeling its welcoming magic embrace him like a physical touch. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Voldemort's inevitable return, the Horcruxes, the prophecy's fulfillment, he would face them not alone but surrounded by allies. As they descended the tower stairs, Harry placed his palm briefly against the stone wall. Thank you, he whispered to the castle. For everything. Hogwarts' magic pulsed in response, warm and reassuring. The ancient stones had recognized their heir, and through him, begun to awaken fully once more. The sleeping giant that was Hogwarts was stirring, preparing for whatever darkness approached. And this time, when Voldemort came, he would not face a helpless infant protected only by his mother's sacrifice. He would face the heir of Hogwarts, standing with his friends, supported by the greatest magical stronghold in Britain, and armed with knowledge the Dark Lord could never access. For the first time since the Horcrux was placed in his scar, Harry felt not just hope but confidence. They would win this fight, not just survive it, but triumph. After all, Hogwarts had chosen them, guided them to each other, prepared them for precisely this purpose. The heirs had returned. And Hogwarts was ready. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.